Well, welcome back to the full 80 minutes on Show Me the Money Rugby League TV on YouTube. As always, if you want regular Rugby League content and regular Rugby League shows, hit that follow and subscribe button. Well, we're back. It just feels like it was only last week we were sat in these esteemed chairs and we were talking about the greatest sport on this planet, which of course is the lovely sport of rugby league. But it is myself, Mick the Game Caller Gledhill. We have the king, Mr. Craig, Show Me the Money Harrison, and we've got the pretender to the throne, Mr. Show Me the Money Harrison on the end. We're led to believe Jimmy Mack will be joining us, but at the moment we don't know where he is, but he's slacking. Right. It's been a long time. So much has happened, and we're probably going to talk a heck of a lot about the sport of rugby league, both on the field and off the field, as the full 80-minute returns, which I'm sure everybody is watching this thinking, yes, my favourite is back. But no, Craig, how the devil are you? And, you know, give us a little bit about what's gone on in your life and your world since we last spoke. And last did one of these, which was about 4 months ago.
Well, lucky you've said that, Mick, because obviously when I walked into the office and it hasn't been touched since then, we've realised Joe's left the eating on. Joe's left the eating on, and Mary's been complaining for the last 4 months. Sorry for swearing, saying she doesn't swear a lot, but the pills have been a stomach. We've walked and it's like a sauna, and there's 2 eaters full on, blaring out. So on that one, Mick's probably cost us about 2 bags. Just been in and around the office for the last 4 months, so that's not a great start to the show. And I'm sweating now because it's that hot in here. I can't get my head around it. Mick, great to be back. You used the word, regular show. I think we've let the listeners down a bit. I think we should have done a bit more. We've all been busy in our own lives. We've all been doing other stuff. We've been busy with everything. Mick, we're trying to do Show Me Towers Up. That's took a lot of the last 3 or 4 months, a lot of the budget, a lot of my time. The game's been really busy. In a crazy way, really, because I was thinking about this last night. Some of the things we can talk about. We all did our predictions, I believe, and I don't want to go into it too much, but we did our predictions, and I think quite rightly Wigan would have been on top, I'm sure, of all 4 of us. I was surprised if it maybe Saints and Wigan, and they are the dominant side in Super League. I think Championship we should have all said Wakey. If we didn't, we were not doing our job right. And I think we'd have probably gone for Oldham in Champ 1 if that's what you were saying. So the bookies have got it right really at the moment, haven't they? The dominant 3 teams, am I right in saying it, are them 3? I want to talk a little bit, Mick, and open up, say hello to Joe in a minute and we'll get thingy, but I'd like us to start with Wigan, if that's all right with everybody, because I don't think people realise, and I've said this quite a few times, that they've won the World Club, they've won the Challenge Cup, they're going back to back to win the Grand Final League trophy. They lost 2 of the best young players, reportedly in the world, in Smithies and Piers Paul, and they look stronger. And all of a sudden they introduce a young back rower who looks like he's the next superstar of the game. I'm terrible with names, John. Junior December. This is a machine in motion. This is a machine of a club in motion, because what they're doing is every time, and they've allowed, I think that's 11 players to go to Australia in the last 8 years, which is very unlike, to lose 8 players. By the way, you're only losing because they're probably one of the best players at your club. But if you go through it all, from George to we never saw Ryan Sutton, there's been loads of Joe Burgess, Tam Tompkins, list.
John Bateman, of course, last year.
Bateman, the 2 lads last year, Piers Paul Smithies, I'm sure there's some more, Gildart to West Tigers. But they look stronger now, in a stronger position now than they have done since the Wigan superstars of the 80s, Mick, when we know they were dominant. I would say it's massive on Matty Pete. I've got to give him some toffees, a big friend of mine, but he gets a bit embarrassed if you say it, but this is a kid, Mick, who's done 10 years. He won 9 junior grand finals, Mick, I think it was nearly on the trot. You imagine what that is doing. He's won 9 junior grand finals, and then he went in as assistant and did the highlights and did the picking out and probably cleaned the changing rooms. Then he went among the first team. He wanted to play, Mick. He didn't come in like a Danny Maguire or a Sam Tompkins and wow, Sam Burgess is here. This is Matty Pete, who probably played, respectfully so, Lee Miners. Now, I don't. You might tell me wrong. This is a kid who's had to do it all the hard way, and now he's the supremo coach, probably the best young coach in the world, without doubt. Is Matty Pete, and I know he gives a lot of stuff for Tommy and Lockers and his staff. That's a great manager. You know what I mean? And he gave me a couple, and I hope he don't get monk on me sharing it. I'm gonna. And I said, whenever that preview of the game a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I've got total trust in me, in my staff, Craig. He said, and I've actually challenged them and said, guys, do a preview of what you see. Let's have a look at it. Bring it on Monday. So the guys have turned up Monday morning, early doors, bang. And he's had a look at it before it's gone out to the players, and he's gone, great, lads, not changed. It seemed to be simple, Mick. I asked him how they attacked. Do you know what he said? This is what he said. We get numbers, we get in the arm wrestle. Every time we get space, we take it. Because we've got Jake Wardle, Bevan and Jai who can take any space. So if they get numbers 3 on 2, 2 on 2, they take it. Does that seem simple again, Mick, doesn't it?
It does, and they're very patient. They break teams down gradually. They don't have that sort of mentality where other Super League sides that I've seen this season almost force the pass and believe they have to score in every play. And I think it was the Wigan 36 London 0 game where you knew when it was 18-0, it was game over. There was no way back for London, but, they're just constantly, rather than trying to go to 50 or 60, it was, that sort of simplified process of just gradually breaking London down and scoring when it was on, rather than trying to force it, which could have allowed London back in the game. And whether Matty Pete agrees with that, I don't know.
I agree with you.
But it's a very sort of patient kind of style. And
I don't know if Joe will agree. If you meet him, I think everything's simple. I don't think, they're not changing the game, are they?
Not that I've seen, no. It's just a very professional environment where everything's done correctly. Where you see a lot of other clubs, there's little things missing in every club. There's little things where you point out. Whenever you've spoke to Wigan, it's all in. Every single base is covered very well, and I think that's what they do. They get the basics right and don't miss out on anything.
But that's investment in the youth, investment in the amateur game, investment in it's scary, Mick. We went to watch a satellite game. We watched a satellite game. This satellite is players who are on the development of Wigan. They're not in the Wigan Scholars or the academy. The Wigan satellite players who come in from all over the country, and they play these development games, and they have a look and they go, yeah, I like you, we'll invite you back. So they've got networks everywhere. And again, you look and you think, if any other club had the best 2 or 3 players took out, they'd suffer. Wigan don't suffer. Is it me? Do you think there's any suffering at Wigan by losing a couple of players every year?
Not really, and it's shown again this season, hasn't it? When everyone spoke about, a re-emergence of St Helens. Yes, and I know there's 4 points between Wigan and Warrington and Saints, but from what I've seen this season, I think they're going to go all the way to Old Trafford, and yeah, it will be a very happy treble for Matty Pete and Wigan.
Well, again, and so I that's the to start off on that note, it hasn't shocked me, but it shocked me how the others are not using that template as little. If it were me, I'd be saying, what are they doing different at the moment? What did Saints do different? What did Leeds do? I tell you what they all did. They all did what Joe said. They all did the basics very well, but they all had a lot of money invested in the development areas, didn't they? Leeds have got 16, 18 amateur clubs were feeding them when they were and they had that connection. Great. The great John Bastian set that up originally, and how they were doing it, and Dean Bell, and then it went mad. St Helens obviously got it right, but Wigan at the moment, and I think what they say, Mick, even on the technology, and I shared this with Joe and a couple others, even the technology is premier. They don't. Matty will talk to me about some stats they get and how the information they're getting. Mick, it's mind blowing. I'm not kidding you. They're doing stuff on that side of things that probably half of the Super League and none of the rest are doing. Do you get me? They're getting stuff sent to them on detail, which is right up there with NFL clubs and right up there with basketball. I think that it's off the field and on the field, the investment on to get that bit right. All this is going to be right. England players recently, I think they trained at Wigan. They trained at Wigan.
They did, yes.
I mean,
Robin Parker.
and I must have got. I'm getting told off for this, But I had a couple of players, and I don't know if that's right that they should be playing at a club, because Wigan might have an advantage here, because I had 2 players said to me, oh my God, have you seen it set up? Have you done this? Have you done that? So in a way, they're looking and thinking, aye, that's not happening at my club. We haven't got these facilities here.
Yeah.
So Wigan are driving standards everywhere, aren't they? I suppose it's up to the rest, Mick, to catch them up.
Totally agree, Craig. Totally agree. So obviously, you've mentioned Wigan. No real surprise to see them top of the pile, especially after that great win against Penrith in the World Club Challenge. Since we've done the last show, quite a lot has happened. If we are going to look at the Super League, and we are going to do, for those that are watching this, there is going to be a separate championship show. We will talk a little bit about the championship on this, but and League One, of course. But yeah, Craig, but when you take Wigan out, there's very little in the table between St Helens, a Warrington, a Catalans, a Hulkingston Rovers, and then arguably the club that has surprised me the most, considering all the pain, all the adversity, everything that they've had to deal with, is Salford. When you think about they were having to sell those players to Leeds to survive, Joe's just nearly spilt the coffee on himself. But when you think about Salford at the start of the season, and they've had to sell the players to survive, there's still the uncertainty over the stadium. What Paul Rowley has done there, and I dare say Ian Blease, prior to his departure for Leeds, it is absolutely phenomenal. And I know Hull FC pushed them really close at the weekend, but they have this uncanny knack, this ability to grind out results. They went to St Helens earlier on in the season and won. They beat St Helens at the AJ Bell Stadium. There's a couple of my old favourites in that side. Obviously, Ryan Briley, Ethan Ryan, who I think is having an absolutely fantastic season. A very underrated player, in my opinion, and that's not me showing my Bradford favouritism, but when you talk Moneyball and, what Ethan's on and what he produces, he's a very good player. But Craig, Salford, they've dealt with Ian Blease leaving to Leeds. Paul Rowley, I'm still hearing he's going to end up at Leeds in some capacity. Whether or not that happens, who knows? But, I think Salford, for mine, probably ahead of Wigan. They are the absolute Super League surprise package of 2024 as things currently stand.
John, you want to go first? I say no.
Okay.
I say no. I say Wigan. I think Wigan are. Yeah. I think Salford are pound for pound.
Would you have, if you're saying still Wigan, would you have Salford then directly below?
I'm going to answer that. I'd say what Rowley Paul does is fantastic. And so did Watson. So did Ian. So it makes you think the model they've got is improving players who have either people have deemed as being too old, people have deemed as being not achieved, and they put them together and they say to them, right, I'm going to coach you, I'm going to make you all better players. And within that Salford thing, there's definitely a model, Mick, of what they've done. If you look at the players, they brought players from Australia, they made them Men of Steel. They brought players who you think, wow, and we've all done it, you've gone, what they signed him for? A year later, he looks absolutely top draw. So I think the model is fantastic on improvement, and I think it's a great club because they've gone through, as you have at Bradford, they've had loads of adversity. I do believe they might even be there now, Mick. You don't know what the debts are. You don't know where they all own the government debts.
Yes, the COVID loans.
It's the current. I know that the fans bailed them out. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I think somebody... if it's reputed what the fans have put in to keep the club going, there's a seeds mentality off and on the field, isn't there? The fans are believing him, they're putting their own money in. I love what Rowley is doing, Paul. I love what Watson did. I suppose Richard Marshall come on after the hangover of what Watson had done. And Paul probably sat back, Marshall got slaughtered, and then Paul got the job. And he put Paul's got some unbelievable... I'll tell you a little one. When you meet, is it Salford? Salford.
That is one bugbear that even to this day,
I know, I get
stopped at ground. Will you show me to pronounce it? Salford.
I've got a bit of dyslexia in there, without being funny. I don't want to make an excuse, but I have. So they've got there's a siege mentality. They get there, they do what they do. My only question mark is, can they become off and on the field where they don't have to sell players? Because historically, they're a feeder club to the top 3 or 4 clubs.
Correct.
I do believe this, and I've said this to Joe and think, when Ian Blease went for the job at Leeds, I'm sure the biggest courting of Ian Blease is when, and I cracked a joke about this a year before, they might remember, when they took Brodie and they took Ackers, I actually made a private comment to a few people and said, 3 kings bringing gifts. They went, what do you mean? I said, I bet you Blease is next there. I just don't know why I said it. It might have been an off-the-cuff, have a laugh. I said, but there were a lot of people after them players.
Correct.
They ended up at they ended up at Leeds. I'm sure when Ian went for his CV, he looked down and thought, wow, Joel Moon, Robert Louis. They took, Leeds have paid fees for 4 or 5 Salford players. So I bet you it was quite easy for Ian to say, well, do you want to know what job I've done? You've been buying my players for the last, 5 years. This is what job I've done. That's another debate on who is the pinpoint of that club. Because like we've said, they've had 2 super coaches, would say, Paul and Ian. Ian's gone out of that environment and struggled with an open checkbook at Huddersfield, which is bizarre, which is totally bizarre, because you take Ian in, you're thinking, somebody said to me the other day, and I'm not going to go on to this, but it's unbelievable. Huddersfield, I said, Huddersfield give you everything. Ian Watson has had no excuses. When Richard Thewlis hired Ian Watson from Salford, he was the number 1 draft pick in all the rugby league. All Leeds, I can tell you at least 6 other clubs that were all wanting to think you were in. Rich Thewlis thinks, yes, I've got him. I've got the man who's going to bring Huddersfield back to Nathan Brown, back to Paul Anderson. We aren't being funny. It's been a bit of a disaster. So there must be something special at Salford, and I think it's the fans. I think it's siege mentality. They obviously must run the club in a real us v everybody else, isn't it? You know what I mean? They must do. Because I'm sure even when they're doing team talks, I asked Singo, I've asked Ryan Bright, I said, what's different? Ethan. Ethan, we didn't get renewed at KR. We was told that Ethan could go. The first people we met 2 or 3. But as soon as he met Paul talked about his game in detail. He was sold. It wasn't even a question, because it was all about the player and how he could improve it. You know what Ethan like? He overthinks things. So Ethan's like, wow, these are going to work on me. They're very good at that, Mick. When they meet players, they don't talk about the club. Do you know what they talk about? The player. Rolls has 4 of his staff. You sit on that side. That's why I was a bit surprised. People said, did Bleasy do that? I said, no, it were Rolls and his staff. And Watto and his staff. Ian had been there for the negotiations.
Yeah.
But they're very esteem on making that player better. Joe?
You've given us the monologue, so let's crack on next club.
There's nothing more to add on Salford?
All right.
No, not that.
The one thing I would say is, and this might be classed as a little bit of nitpicking, but we are in this IMG era, and there was only 3,000 fans there on Sunday for their game against Hull FC. And when you talk, Craig, about how do they stop this adversity, how do they stop having to sell players to survive, well, it's clear: grow the fan base, improve your finances. And could I see Salford in 5 years' time turning into the next Hull KR? Because let's not forget, it was only 5 years ago Hull KR were very similar to where Salford currently are.
Worse, I thought. Yeah, second from bottom.
Second from bottom. Hull KR religiously, yearly, when we had the Super 8s, in the bottom 4, playing your Londons, your Wignesses, fighting for survival. And I think if Salford can somehow crack that Salford-Manchester market and get a couple more thousand fans, then Bob's your uncle. They can become a dominant force like a Hull Kingston Rovers. The question is, now Ian Blease has gone, who is going to be that person to sort of rejuvenate, revitalise, regenerate, Salford Red Devils? Because it's fair to say in 24, they do have a competitive team. They are beating St Helens home and away. They are in the mix for a top 4 finish. They're just not being backed by the supporters. Whether or not the move from
they
the
are
Willows...
being backed by the supporters. I mean, the loyal supporters...
Yeah, the loyal supporters are there, but what I'm saying, Craig, for a top 4, if Salford are going to be...
Not attracting new supporters.
You can't say it's a good look for the game, Salford in the top 4, but they're only getting 3,000 fans against Hull FC, and I know Hull FC are going through...
Would they bring how many people would Hull bring? 800?
800, 900, yeah. So you can kind of see where Salford are at, but yes, when they do play a Wigan or a Saints there's regularly 4,000 or 5,000 there, but the AJ Bell holds 12,000, and it's a bit soul destroying to see all those empty seats. Right, we've done a couple of clubs that, in my opinion, and your opinions, have done really well this season. Let's just focus on one in the middle, the Leeds Rhinos. There was a Leeds Rhinos special, what you boys did without me at the start of the season, and
record figures. Yeah.
I can remember the record figures and your predictions of where they're going to be. What has gone wrong, or what has gone right, if anything, at the Leeds Rhinos this year?
Oh, you passed the difficult one on to me.
Because look, at the start of the season,
easy,
you mentioned Brodie Corf, Andy Ackers, the investment, the money to Salford, the players. Rowan's been back with a chequebook. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And by the way, Craig's going to meet Rowan in a couple of days' time, and we're going to see if we can get Rowan on the show for you, which, I think Rowan will.
Fantastic, mate. He'll probably tell me to piss off.
No, listen, Craig, he's around good company.
I'd like to see him and his family and give him a chance to talk, and it'd be unbelievable. And that's, regardless of him coming for a cup of tea with me, that's just a bonus.
Yeah, because I remember Rowan, I was interviewing him religiously every week during his Bradford Bulls time, so I've got a lot of respect for him. But Joe, we'll start with you. Yeah. Leeds Rhinos, they're either looking down towards your Huddersfield, your Castlefords, your Lees, or they're looking up, chasing your Hulkington Rovers or your Salfords. They're in the mid-table position, neither in the playoffs. I mean, there's no relegation, but they're not going to be bottom four. What's gone right, what's gone wrong for Leeds?
I'll start with what I think's gone wrong. I think, obviously, we've covered it multiple times now. The fans get annoyed at us doing 40 minutes on Leeds.
Well, we're not going to do 40 minutes. No,
but I'm saying the answer's always pretty similar. I think number one, the recruitment. They've still not got that right after as we covered the 10, 12 half-backs that they've never quite nailed down. I think the recruitment they've still not got to right. Brodie's been probably the best of the bunch of that they've recruited so far. But I don't think anyone's diving out, say, obviously, apart from the amazing game he had for the Rodborough, fair play, got into it, didn't he, and played amazing. But we've not seen that consistency from Brodie, and I think he's been the best of the bunch. The rest of them, I don't think quite delivered on the name value, probably, that and the hype that rightly or wrongly they got. So I think that's number one, and that's been a long-standing thing now for probably 6, 7, 8 years, haven't they? I don't think they've had a recruitment cycle where most of the signings have been nailed on. So I think that's something they definitely need to change. Obviously, that's probably why they brought Ian Bleasing, who's, as Dad joked about, famously sold 5 players to Leeds and got recruitment. Him and his staff and team and people around the Salford have definitely got that recruitment right. So that's probably why they brought Bleasing in, because that's some of his biggest successes at Salford have been the recruitment cycle. So I'd say that's number one. I'd say number two, this one that Dad talks about a lot. I think the lack of saying we're going to win. I think there's a lot of lovely, great people at Leeds, from the players to the staff to everyone. I don't think you hear many bad words or bad things coming out of the camp of how, if they're bad people, if they're doing this wrong, that wrong. I think a lot of them, they've got good people around. I don't think the word, as we've covered in the past, win has been pile-drived into the sport. In my opinion, it's all good having great mental health, having great things, having good support systems in the club, which Leeds famously have, and have probably what Rowan's been very good at is he's put a lot of this in place. He's turned things around where it's actually a very positive environment, and people have got a lot of help. It's all done on a lot of the new school ways of keeping positive as a squad together. And I think you can see that, but then you also don't see the nastiness that you need in rugby league, Mick. I think that's the nastiness, the grit, the win at any cost mentality hasn't been there, has it? And I think that's the probably bit that I think Leeds need to nail the most. Whoever, obviously, they're saying Brad Arthur's coming in till the end of the season. I don't know what that's about at the moment. That's the latest report on Twitter, that he's coming till the end of the season. If he is, I think he's got a quick job of coming in saying, guys, you've got the talent to beat anyone on any day. You've got the skills. believe you can win and do anything you can to win. Let's embrace this lovely culture that's been created over the last 2 years, but then let's all come together with a nastiness, with a competitive drive that hasn't been seen in ages. And that's the one thing I'm really keen on seeing, of the players, the staff all coming in saying, here we go, we're going to go on a run now, and we're going to get in them playoffs, and we're going to have a go at winning it. No doubt about it, we're having a go. And unless I miss them headlines, Mick, I just don't see that enough. Obviously, Ian in his press conference said, I'm a winner, I'm here to win. That was the first time I've heard anyone even mention winning in the Leeds capacity in a while, where it's up there as... So yeah, I'd say them two, recruitment cycles and winning mentality. The basis is there. They've got some brilliant young lads coming through. Obviously, as Show Me the Money look after themselves, we've got some brilliant lads that are coming. Obviously, Riley, who's made his debut. We've got quite a few. Obviously, Jack's there. We've got Prez, Jake. We've got I can go on all day about all the different players we've got and Leeds have got throughout the system. So it's coming. Just let's have that drive to succeed, Mick, and I think we can see some success at Leeds, but without that drive to win, that angriness, that toughness into saying it has to be done. That's the key for me, Mick.
Craig, your thoughts on Leeds Rhinos? What went wrong for Rowan? Joe's kind of said that, not a soft approach, but I remember Rowan at Bradford, and he'd have the signs on the walls, the energy bus. It was all positivity. There were all these, I know Rowan, if he watches this, he won't mind me saying this, Rowan must be the only coach I've certainly crossed paths with. He'd have the NBA head coaches, their autobiographies, Bill Belichick's autobiography. He immerses himself in what a lot of, successful coaches and sports administrators in other sports have done. But what fundamentally, Craig, what has cost Rowan his job?
I think a bit of everything you've said. We did that show, didn't we? And we said we didn't see a lot of just accountability of winning matches. It was always in, and I'm sorry to use this for Ian Watson, but it was always in process. Sometimes in life, you're not allowed process. You've got to say here and now. I felt he was a good person, Rowan, and I felt the lads, he developed some, and he what I loved about him? You could ring Rowan with a player, as I did with Lewis Roberts, and he would open the door to you and say, right, let's have a look at him. And Lewis had a lot of boot at Leeds, and I'm going to say something here. When a fan gives a boot, remember one thing. When you're comparing a lad on his money, who's going through a journey at 21 years old, and he needs probably 2 or 3 years to be that player, don't you dare not compare him to the bloke who's on 220 grand in the same position, and he's not delivering. There's a lot of difference in salary and mentality and training and everything. This kid's on a journey. These big boys are getting... Fans should go for the big boys. I don't know if Leeds have got a traitor doing it. I hope not. But they'll shout out somebody who's actually there to play. He earmarked 5 games. He did his 5 games. Then he's thrust in against Saints on wing, and then he's thrust in this and he's thrust in that because they've got injuries. They should be opening these guys and cheering them off the pitch. Yet the 200 grand players, the 180 grand players, they don't get the boot. Because I think the fans go, well, he's better than him. He's better than him. Well, that's all right. This Ferrari drives better than a Mini. Do you know what I mean? That's easy to say. You've got to look at what's behind it. I admire Rowan for developing that. I just think Rowan, a bit of Brian Mack could have done Rowan good. I don't think Mack went into all the process and shit. I think he just went, I think I can get this bunch of blokes somehow to win a grand final. And he used to talk about putting pieces together, and putting these pieces together and that, and then all of a sudden, momentum, confidence. I think Rowan probably struggled with, let me say this honestly, as I can, and I hope he didn't think, it's like sometimes Brian McLennan went into Leeds and won two back-to-backs. They reckon he didn't coach. I hope that's not, they reckon he wanted to, he just, I think I always remember when a player's ringing me going, you're not going to effing believe it. That's what they said. He's walked straight after the game, he's gone straight to the bar and said to lads, who wants one? Now, when we would hear a coach doing that, do you know what I mean? And Bluey's gone, yeah, bang, you want one? Danny going, do you want one? He thought it were brilliant. I love that. I have this old school value of saying, wow, that must open up something to the lads where they feel they want to play for you. I actually don't know how many of them. When you're very clever in detail like Rowan is, do you think players want to play for you? Or are they playing because it's... Do you get me? Are they going to go, I need to win this for Rowan? You know, when Rowan were under pressure, I didn't see them all wanting to win that game for Rowan.
Correct, yes.
And I've been in chain, we've all done sport, and sometimes you pull together because you go, I've got to do it for him. I've got to do it for him. In business you can do it. You go, what? Come on. Even with the emotion of Rob Burrow, what's been a very emotional year for rugby league and for everybody. And God bless Rob and his family, and what they've done for that illness. My dad died of it. Joe's granddad. Unbelievable. But there's been a lot of emotion around Leeds, but they still haven't delivered on the pitch. Do you get me? I think Rowan will be bit. I said this. I think in a year's time, Rowan's going to have a massive low, Mick, and realised he had the chance to coach the best, probably the biggest and one of the best clubs in the world, and he's lost it. And I think he'll beat himself up. And I'd say, Rowan, don't beat yourself up that much. I think sometimes the players that you inherited and the players that you're probably a little bit too soft at times, this is my opinion. I think I'd like to think if I'd have been there with Rowan, he's gone, because they're not good blokes. Some of these are not, Mick, they're selfish. And they should have identified it early and gone. And the easiest chat in the world is to say to somebody and look at him and go, you're not for me, kid. You are not for me. It's not personal. You're just not. I don't think Rowan did that. And I think he'll write down names in the next 6 months and he'll be absolutely heartbroken. And I hope he doesn't, because he got to grand final in first year. We all forgot about it, didn't we? He took a team to a grand final with him. And now he took that team, because we were there. That team won to grand finals. In my opinion, it won to grand final winning side. But he somehow galvanised the club. But after that, he would probably gone, wasn't he? He's thinking, imagine first year, Mick, you're in grand final. Where'd you go from there?
Yeah.
Well, we know where he went.
Well, I think any Leeds fan watching this will probably say there was a high degree of overachievement in that first year, which clearly set that bar, which was already high, even higher.
You know it.
Second year comes and there's the crash and the fall, and then even going into this season, we'll give him another chance. He's had the money for Croft and Ackers. He's had the money to invest in the squad, and it's just not happened. And I don't know if you watched the game, but, the game against London at the weekend, I thought that was quite telling. You're still seeing that same Leeds going through the motions. And, if it's true that Paul Rowley is going to be the new heir to the throne at Headingley, then the Brad Arthur stuff just does not make sense to me.
Well, there's another one, Mick, that you're right. The Brad Arthur wouldn't make stuff till the end of the year. That sounds daft. Two, they're not trusting Chev and Grixie, who've been just to take the team to the end of the year. I don't think this team's going to be in the playoffs anyway. I don't think that.
You think they miss out?
I don't think they're good enough. I don't think they're good enough. I think there's some players are. There's some players are carrying the club. There's other players who are playing against the club. I think somebody's got to gel that together. Somebody's got to have some real straight talks. But I think they're a rebuild again. And I think if Ian's going to have to go in, he's going to have to make some real deep, shocking, bang, bang, bang decisions. And I think the coach, Paul's got the ball to do a Leeds job. And if I'll be honest, he's probably been, I'm not saying courting Mick, but it's probably been his job of his. I think, I think this is the one. And I think if you asked a lot of the coaches, they all say, I'd love to take that Leeds side now. Because most of the other coaches think the Leeds side's good enough to be in the top four. Do you know that? So they're all saying to me, I'd love to take that Leeds thing, which is a bit of a blow to Rowan and his staff. In other words, they're not doing that job. But they are, I'd be honest, a lot of the other coaches were purring to get that Leeds job. Do you know what I mean? Mm. Listen, we need Leeds to be strong. We've got to have Leeds strong, Mick. We've got to have a strong Leeds side. The Super League as our next TV deals, you'll know better than anybody. We've got to have a strong Leeds, because you can't go to table with our 18,000 all-seater Premier Stadium in the world for Rugby League, and we're fourth from bottom. So Leeds have got to produce some superstars. You know what I'd ask if I were Leeds? Here's one for you. And again, the Rob Burrow testimonial, last week's game, the emotion, privately, we'll all talk about our private feelings. I was very upset. It got to me. But would you ask the players, what is it that took you to there? Why you're not there every week? At
least not close to it. I guess obviously the emotion of the day probably drives anyone to play better.
But do you need that to get a top player? Does he need that? Do you think?
No, there's a valid argument. That drive should be instilled in you. You should be doing that on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock.
We saw what they could be in the game, because that Leeds team obviously is a pretty good team.
Very good team. Very good team.
They've underperformed on where they are in the league this year, but the talent were there. The new signing ripped apart for like 20 minutes. You saw it coming. Leeds stuck in, and obviously Brody played his best game in the Leeds shirt. So, yeah, I think that's the tough bit. How do you get that consistently near that performance? I'm not saying be at that every week.
That's the question you'd ask me, isn't it? You'd say it's fantastic on Borough, but why would you need... These are top world-class professionals. Where's that performance week in, week out, Mick? And that's the question for a new coach. But I tell you now, we need a strong Leeds. Let me tell you, my friend. Wow.
Just final one on Leeds, putting everyone on the spot. Is it Paul Rowley or is it someone else? Is that you, Joe?
I think they'll go Brad Arthur, and I don't know enough about Brad, but I think what he's done in the past, Brad Arthur might be. I'm going Brad Arthur.
I can't.
I can only go off Salford inquiring about other coaches for next year. I think it's Paul Rowley. Why else would Salford be putting the feelers out for coaches for next year?
It'd be an interesting one, wouldn't it? And this is a bit of fun, so don't all quote us on, please, then Rugby League. We fell out with all the bloody journalists by putting shit out in little bits if you're going to tell stories. But anyway, quick one is...
By the way, if anyone is watching this, and you are going to quote me, Craig or Joe, at least give the show some credit, the full 80 minutes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say, can you imagine, we'd go on to the Huddersfield next, but imagine... You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Yes, Watson gets the chop at Huddersfield.
And?
Yes.
And?
Yes.
Do you get me, Joe? So if Rolls goes there, would it be as sorry if Otto goes back to the promised land? And that's the scenario that plays out. Would that shock you?
Oh, no.
It's almost like buying a house, isn't it? You're just waiting for someone to pull the trigger on the big property Paul Rowley to Leeds.
And then...
But then Huddersfield are looking for someone. Do they go for Brad Arthur?
Do you know? We'll talk about Huddersfield, and again...
Well, let's be brutally honest. We knew the problems of Hull FC. So when people say to me, Mick, who's underachieved the most in Super League this year? And I know a lot of people will say it's Hull FC, with their wins and obviously their problems. But let's be brutally honest here. They carried the problems from previous seasons into this season, and to the right there's a whiteboard, and I've got Hull FC in the bottom two, which I stood by in my predictions. Yes, I have. I've got Hull FC in the bottom two. I've also got Lee and Castleford in the bottom four. I also had Salford in the bottom six, which Paul Rowley and Salford have proven me wrong. But you can't really say Hull FC are the disgraced club of the season, the underachievers. For mine, it's Huddersfield Giants, because when you've got Ken Davey in the Huddersfield programmes, you go to the games as a member of the press and you're reading it before the game, back in round 3 when they were at home, and Ken saying this is the best ever Huddersfield squad, the best ever, the feeling is we're going to be in that top 4. And they're nowhere, they're closer to the bottom 2 than the top 4, then something has drastically gone wrong. And we know about Jake Connor and what's happened there with the polarisation of the dressing room and him not being played. And is that down to the coach? I'm not saying one player causes all this, Craig, but
well, he ain't.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is when you do have disruption and you've got those sort of differences amongst players, that's up to a strong coach, is it not, to weed out, to get everybody on the same?
Listen, Jake can't be scapegoat. He got scapegoat at all on the stick.
I'm not saying Jake is the scapegoat here. I'm only saying
when he's back on this.
When Jake's been left out of the squad and you hear the murmurs.
Listen, you sign Jake and then you're moaning because they don't complete because Jake's trying to cut out past that and come off, or he's done something, it ain't come off. It's bollocks. You're signing Jake because you're thinking last year they didn't have enough Maverick. They didn't have anybody who could. They thought with Tower Louis and what's his name? Tuilahea, and they thought with others that they'd have it. They didn't have. So what they got told is Huddersfield are great at going through the motions and completing. What's the word they use a lot, Mick? Process.
Yeah, well, yeah. Ian Watson's favourite word is the process. Or should I say, trust the process.
Trust them. So you've got that. So they bring Jake in because they think Jake can unlock an event. Then you're moaning when he does unlock a defence, but mistakes come with it. I totally disagree. I'm not allowing Jake to be scapegoat at Huddersfield. We're not allowing it on this show.
That's fair enough.
We've given Jake enough. In past, we've tested him, said, why are you not a top player? We'll have his back on this one. Look at Hull. They blamed Jake for 2 years. He obviously carried Hull. Because as soon as he's gone, you've seen what's happened. So let's give Jake a bit of thing. I think Huddersfield is deeper than that his last 3 years, Mick. I think they got the premier coach in the world. Ian Watson, when he left Salford, was wanted by every other club. He's underachieved. What are the reasons? I'll let people pick the bones of that one. I think the main reason is, and a lot of people say this, Huddersfield's like and I'm going to try and be honest here, Huddersfield's like a lack of atmosphere, which the players suffer because there's a lack of atmosphere. Me and Joe went to an academy game 3 weeks ago. There was over 500, 400 kids playing. Have you seen the thing it's built? Have you seen it at the training ground?
Yes.
There were all these kids and families there. It's fantastic.
Is it Lord Hill?
Yeah,
I've been to Lord Hill once.
And I tell you now,
very impressed with it.
Very impressed. And I tell you now, they say that Ken was stood there and somebody must have questioned whether Ken's put 13 million in and said, what are you going to be known for, Ken? And Ken must have gone, we're going to win it. And they've said, yeah, but you should be known. And one of the players said, but Ken, what if you don't? Well, that down there should be Ken's legacy because it's amazing. He's got people, the community. He's this, on the field. I think Ian, are you ready? I'll try and put it to how I see it. If I tell you that if you do everything that I tell you on this show and we put it out and it don't go right, I say, Sam, you got it wrong because you changed something I told you. You ready? Mick, you didn't say this and you should have done. Yeah. Joe, you said this and I'm right. You're all wrong. I think when you're that level of coach he is and his details that high, sometimes you just sit back and go, probably my game plan I've got wrong. I'm probably too much. Probably need to free a bit here. I need to get my arm around something. I need to give Mick a cuddle and say, Mick, I need your best show today. Joe, we need more off you here. We love you. I think the management side and the human side is probably what Ian needs to improve on, in my opinion, what I see. I've not seen behind the closed doors and people say this, but obviously his detail, I reckon, is unbelievable. His process of saying to you, if you kick 9 times and land it there and the kick chase is great, we will on set 10 break these down. When we break them down, if you put this procedure in, sports human making it. It's errors.
It's not robotic. It's not robotic like that.
That's my opinion.
Yeah. So,
Smiling at you.
What happens now, Craig? Because every week it's another disappointing defeat. The pressure from the fans is burning. We know after their latest setback, the 48-0 against Warrington on Friday night, Ken Davey actually had to act and release that statement. He's asking for everybody to trust everything and turn the corner. But how many seasons now? Because Ian Watson's been there 3.5 years. How many seasons is it going to be of chopping and changing
it's
and
not
an
worked,
open checkbook?
It's not worked.
It hasn't
worked.
It's
not worked. That's not. And I know that Richard Thulis, I get asked all the time about Rich. I'm telling you now, he has never picked a player for that club. Never. When I've been there with me, he's always the coach. It's always if Ian can come out, Nathan Brown, Paul Anderson, Simon Grubb.
The Aussie gone from me. It'll come back to me. Yeah.
And then they had Rick Stone.
Yeah, Rick Stone.
There's not one of them will come out when they leave and say he picked the club picked the players. They don't. He gives them the free thing. So they've got. I think what they do at Huddersfield, they've got no excuses. What excuse have you got? Facilities. They just built a new facility. Yeah. The only thing you could knock as a coach is say you don't put enough crowd. You don't put enough people in the thing. So my fans are missing emotion, and I get that. You're missing at home. You want emotion, and they can't get more than 3,000 fans. So there's definitely something amiss there for a coach to say, you go to Hull KR, let's be honest, the crowd are good for 15 points, 20 points a year.
Yes.
They're dragging the ball in. Castleford, when they sweep Caroline and they're at it, there's an emotion. Huddersfield don't have that.
No.
Unfortunately, they don't. Ian won't have any other excuses, Mick. There's nothing there to excuse. It's been a failure. They've spent the cap and they've spent the marquee on some years. We come on this show to tell the honest truth. That's nothing personal. I think here's a question for you. Is Watto a good coach? I think he is. I think he was close to getting an England job, and I think Watto is a very, very high level, detailed coach. Do I think he's management with players who are... Do you know, you go Salford, and we've talked about it, and I get a player, Ethan Ryan, and I say to Ethan, I'm going to make you better. What happens if you get the player who's on 200 grand and you can't? Is that a different challenge as a coach?
Well, clearly it is, because depending on how old that player is, there'll be certain attributes and achievements which probably will eclipse anything in the team. And yeah, you're right. The challenge is totally different to someone like Ethan Ryan, who's grown up in League One and the Championship, with the Bradford Bulls, who's now, still at the forefront of his Super League journey.
Wheaton's Brian Mack, three cups of tea, shuffling before he got the job. What's biggest challenge, Mac? Sinfield, Burrow, Kev. Wow. How do you coach that?
You just said Sinfield, Burrow, Kev.
Sinfield, Burrow, Danny.
Danny Mann.
How do we coach that? How do I get 2 into 3? How do I get 3 to play together with the egos and what's going off? And how do I make it all work? And more importantly, a coach who's never coached at that level, how do I get the best out of these world-class icons of the game? I think that was it, and I think it was he found a way of winning 3 championships, getting them going. That's it, Mick, for me, straight as.
I think the obvious one for me as well, Mick, is that we've all covered and I'm a massive fan of is, and I use it probably every show, the youth at Huddersfield has been, I don't want to say not been given a chance, but they've not prioritised bringing through the young players and actually sticking with them. We've had years, obviously, the seniors, Dom
twins,
Young.
yes.
You've seen Ward will be the best centre in the league by probably a good margin this year at Wigan.
Pricey, Dom Young.
Pricey, yeah, I mentioned Dom Young. Pricey's now got. I think there's quite a few others as well, isn't there, around the leagues, and like I said, even in NRL. So you've got. For me, that's part of the answer.
Well, they got rid of Cruz.
Got rid of Cruz, yeah. I think that's got to be part of the answer, Mick, because they're not, for whatever reason, they're not saying, like we know Saints do, we're not signing him because we've got this young player coming through, we're going to give him a chance. And without being too tactical on the cap, but normally if you bring in young players, they're cheaper on the cap than the big Aussie or the bigger other player they're signing in, because they're playing for their own club. They've gone through a process of the contract money, and they're normally a lot cheaper than they are when they bring in another player. So I think that's got to be a massive one for me. People, you naturally want to play for your home team. You naturally want to win for your home team. That desire is always there when you play for the home team. It's very rare that you see a player have miles more desire at a different team, unless it's some crazy story. So I think that's a big one for me, Mick. I saw a tweet, actually, someone tweeted it yesterday. There was a list of about 10, 12, all at different clubs, all at different places.
That have come through Huddersfield.
That was Mick's tweet.
Well, I was actually pleased that they actually give it young Aidan McGowan an opportunity. I know it was like a lamb to the slaughter against Warrington on Friday night, but whilst we were in Toulouse, we watched it.
But I actually want to see you actually want to see him just be given a chance, don't you? I think that's the one.
Yeah, it's no good Aidan playing in a 48-0 and then write you off back to Bradford and
Owen Trout never come. Owen Trout didn't for some reason didn't get establish himself as a regular at things, whereas at Leigh they absolutely think he's going to play for England.
Do you put that then down to the head coach, or is that Fulis and the people
coach?
Purely down to Ian Watson?
Gotta be.
No, because there's months. It's been years of not only what I think that's a system one for me as well.
You can change that, Joe. You can come in and say to, I'm sure I know Rich, and I'm sure Kenny. If Ian's the boss there. I tell you now. When he first came in, he was going to change. If Ian said, I want to keep these players at all costs because I'm going to play them every week, I can only talk about my players. It wasn't hard for me to take my players out of Huddersfield. Oh my God, I can't believe he took Inniston Lewis Senior. I can't believe he took Trout out. I can't believe it wasn't. It was, well, I don't know if they're going to play regular. This is where we have them on a level of money. When I said other clubs have got these starting. Simple. I thought losing Jake Wardle were criminal. Absolutely criminal. I couldn't believe it. I thought that was one of the... Like, you've got the best young centre in the country, but for some reason didn't play regular.
Yeah.
And wasn't revered there as a superstar. When he went to Warrington, Wigan have gone. Mike Pete's like, oh my God, we've got best centre. You know what I mean? listen, more questions than answers, Mick. I just know that, and it's not sometimes do you not think in life, if it hasn't worked, it's not all that Ian's bad, Sometimes the partnership don't work, does it? How many times in life have you said, in your case, you've been told this bar's the best bar. I'm not saying that because of your party lifestyle, but we do know your party. But you've been to places and you've heard it's brilliant, you end up and you're there in Ibiza and they go, it's shit, and you go, it's just not for me. Some things at times it don't work.
No, you're right. And I think on the back of Ken Davies' statement, he's backing Ian Watson.
Of course.
So it's looking like Ian, regardless of what happens this season, there's going to be another rebuild there, and he's going to be backed with a checkbook yet again.
Well, I'm going to blame Ken then. And then we change script then. I was right, we're not blaming Ian. And then that for me is if you've had the amount of time they've had to get it right, and then you're going to go again with it. This could be his third cycle.
Third cycle, yes.
Well, I can't. That's just that. Listen. If I were advising Ian as his friend, I'd be saying to Ian, maybe it's not for you. Maybe there's something here that's not working. I mean, they've lost. If it's reputedly out, but I don't do social media. No, I don't. But as in, Yates has gone. Has that been out there?
No,
it's not. It's rumoured. I mean, I know some of the players that Huddersfield have signed for next year.
Well, anyway,
they've got a couple coming
you'd
from
have thought
Bradford.
he was the one who was. You'd have thought he was the one who would keep more than anybody, wouldn't you? Because he seemed to be Watto's right-hand man. Yeah. He's the heart of the club. He's this and that. And if he's going, then you've got to definitely think, well, that's got to be questioned, hasn't it? And again, I don't think it's that personal. I mean, me and Joe spoke to Andy Kelly. Kells has been there through every coach.
A lot of love for Andy Kelly.
Andy's never, and he's not a person who would be negative anyway, or look at you, and even when they had some bad coaches, and by the way, they have had some bad coaches who couldn't coach at that level. He'd always stay loyal, but they have a lot of time for Ian and his things. His work rate's brilliant. He's a winner. I asked Ian Blease, how would he feel about losing to Salford? And he said he's got a burning desire. It'd kill him, mate. Like him when he plays his own club. He said Watto's a winner. Do you know what? I'd be interested. I'm going to throw a 50-1 shot in. I wouldn't be surprised if he got if that phone call. Ian Blease used to think the world of Ian Watson, and I know they had a little bit when he left. But the neighbours, he always, even today, you speak about what Ian Watson in Blease. He loves him as a coach. Absolutely has him high as out.
Wow.
That would be
Wow.
That would be shock of the year.
That is the 50-1 one. Right, moving on. With Jimmy's somewhere hovering around. He will be joining us shortly. London Broncos, just a quick one on London. What, psychologically they start the season, they know they're not going to get the IMG points. They know that if they won all 27 rounds, they know that if they won the grand final, they know that if they averaged 10,000 sellouts every week at the Cherry Red Record Stadium, the home of AFC Wimbledon, they were still out. What Mike Eccles has done in very testing, difficult circumstances, it is phenomenal. They're at home this weekend, I do believe, against Castleford. That is a game they will absolutely target. And I thought they were very unlucky against Leeds last weekend. And, bubbling behind the scenes, if they were to finish 11th and not finish bottom, there's a whole host of stuff that I think will happen, legal challenges and X, Y, and Z, which might paralyse the sport for a fortnight or so. But, the clubs, the vast majority have voted for IMG. We're going to do more on IMG later on. But London, to their credit, they're not waving that white flag. They're still giving 110% in every game. And it's good to see, players like Elias Makani, players who have been in League One, have been in the Championship, thriving at the Super League level. And of course, Bradford, a club close to my heart, have signed a couple of London players for next season as well, one of them being James Meadows.
Well, I think the one thing he has done is, and it's what he said to me pre-season, he's going to give all the London players a chance to play Super League, and that is what he's done. Whatever you think of Matt, and I've only got positive things, because he's not only give these London players a chance to play Super League and have some amazing memories, obviously some major wins that they've pulled off. if I'm talking purely like from an agent's point of view, he's probably doubled every single one of their contracts as well. He's probably done more for their lives and careers by just playing them and having them around Super League than any coach has ever done for a certain number of players. There's probably about 10 or 12 he's nearly doubled there. I don't know what James Meadows be on, but I imagine Bradford have paid a lovely sum of money for that, Mick, as reported. There's a couple, there's quite a few where they're just gonna go on to great feat. Little Ollie Leyland, at times the last year, not later last year, but early last year and the year before, he were getting wrote off. In Championship, he were getting wrote off, and he's played some good rugby. To be fair to him in Super League, he's gonna go on and do things. There's loads of, like you said, McCartney. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think it's amazing. Do I think the club infrastructure's in place? I like what IMG have done. They're not doing it right. Obviously, we'll get into it, but I don't believe the infrastructure's in their place to be in Super League as of yet. But as he's shown, there's a foundation for a very successful club, given the right things. Mick. To be fair to Mike, I've not spoke to him as much recently this year, but you've got to give him all the credit in the world. He's done amazing things, and he's probably done more for people's careers than anyone's ever done.
We've just heard from Joe there, Craig, and how good is it that Mike Eccles and the London Broncos, they're rewarding those players, those Championship players who worked so hard and achieved so much last season. They went to Sheffield in the first week of the playoffs. I think it was 40 points to 0. They then went to Featherstone in the semi-final. We all know, the shock and the momentum they had, then going into what was the £1 million game against Toulouse. In Toulouse at the Stade Ernest Wallon, and they shocked the Rugby League world for a third consecutive weekend, and they reached the promised land of Super League, which has kind of created a little bit of an enigma for IMG, because they want London in there, but this is like a couple of seasons ahead of their thinking. But how good is it for Mike Eccles to reward the players, the bread and butter, so to speak, that have got London and achieved London Super League status?
I think them lads, I'm sure Joe and Jimmy, Matt's speaking well of Mike for a long time. I haven't spoke to him twice. Seems a real nice guy. He stuck to his word. He stuck to his guns. Do I think it was pointless? I don't know if I have to get my head around this year. If I'm speaking honestly, I'm trying to think. If somebody says to you, whatever you do, you can't win, you can't stay up, I'd find that pretty hard in any competition. I don't think it's competition so that goes back to being a franchise. So have they failed off the field? Because what you're saying is they weren't ready for 2 years' time. We'll probably have them. London should have been in a position to say, no, we're going for it this year. We're in. They're actually in the promised land. So a way of staying in the promised land should have been delivered off the field, I'm sure. Then Mike might have had a better go at saying, I'm going to spend cap. I'm going to give this a proper go. I'd love to have seen Mike with about 2.2 spend this year and said, right, could he actually challenge? Yes, my answer is that it's certainly been, we haven't been disrespectful to all and some of them. They're nearly there now. Yeah. So what would have happened if they had another £1 million? So if they'd have had another £1 million, we'd have seen some real. And I'd have liked to, you know what, Mick? I'd have liked to have seen it. I'd like to have seen them now. You imagine relegation this year now if they'd have had another $1 million. Mm. You'd have had a Hull for first time in 25 years shitting themselves. Yeah. You'd have had Cass potentially shitting themselves. Mm. You'd have had who's the three?
Lee above them. After a slow start.
It's a bit of a gap now, really.
So it'd have been them two oldest clubs.
Certainly Castleford and Hull FC would have been squeaky bum time.
Huddersfield.
Maybe. They're probably going to get dragged into
it. So I'd have preferred that. But listen, as the lads have said, fantastic that they give it a chance. And them lads deserved every chance. Lewis Bayneck and all them have been there years. They deserve a chance to show what they can do. I just feel it don't sit well with me, Mick. It don't sit well with me that you're going into something knowing that whatever you do, you can't achieve. Yeah. And which is even bigger positive on the players and the staff that they managed to compete.
Yeah, and I think that...
Breaking news, I've just heard Joe, there's something happening, Mick.
Is there?
I'll do it.
No, I'll do it. I can do it.
I was just going to say...
Breaking news.
What?
Jimmy's already been talking, so he's missed the introduction on Jimmy.
I was just going to say one thing about London.
That's what's trying to talk.
By the way, this is the breaking news. Jimmy's finally arrived.
But I think if London didn't know that there was no way they could stay up, they probably would have spent a lot more money. But they're probably in a situation where, well, why would you spend all that money if we're definitely going down? So to me,
that's the sad bit.
Even to give him, I suppose you could say, well, at least IMG have been really upfront and honest, so that they don't waste a load of money and then they come down and be like, well, what was the point of that? But at the same time, even if he had a little bit of, there's always going to be that transition in there. Now, if there was that little bit of hope that if London finished third from bottom, they would get enough points that meant they could survive, that would have been the nice happy medium, wouldn't it? Because then the owner might have put another even 300 grand in, 400 grand to try and, you could easily say London are only 3 players short of Castle, couldn't you, with their extra determination and arguably.
I mean, there's different pressures, isn't there, when somebody says, right, you expect to win now, there might have been, but listen,
true.
They're not far off.
Whoa!
It was just a shame.
Breaking news. I was correct in my earlier conversations. Brad Arthur has just been announced as the Leeds Rhinos head coach for the end of the season. Wow. What are the thoughts, lads? Break it down. Mick Liddell, you first.
It's a strange one. He's here till the end of the season. Is this a Ian Blaise try before you buy? I don't think he's got enough time. You understand where I'm coming from.
I've got plenty of time at Carbo.
Yeah. But is he enough? This is what I don't understand. Where's the impact? How much? We've just gone past the halfway point of the season. What is Brad Arthur going to be able to do in such a short space of time?
Well, try and get him sixth, I imagine. I think this is an effort to sneak in the playoffs, which I think was always the goal anyway, and you never know.
The goal is to sneak into the playoffs?
Well, in my head, as we said at the start, I thought Leeds had to try and get in the playoffs.
Well, they have to. Yeah.
And I don't think that's changed. And I think they might be thinking, well, if we just leave it as it is, with Grixie and Chev, as it showed the other night, we could easily start sliding the other way. Whereas if we give everyone a little kick up the arse, then maybe we can get sixth and have a little crack.
I don't think it's the coaches as much, Jimmy me.
Rowan did it, didn't he, when he came in late on? He got in the playoffs and got
stuff in there. There's stuff in there that needs sorting. I agree with you. I don't see how anybody can do it. Have they said to him, if you do a good job? Have they left it open? We're all saying roles. We're all saying the 50-1 chance we've got on the other one.
Yes,
we've got a few others. If it isn't, and it is a chance to say, as you quite rightly put it, you've got 6 months to prove you've got a job. We're not going to confirm Paul. We're going to say to you, it's up to you to stop us getting to Paul.
But no offence to...
I'd take chances.
No offence to Rowan, like when Rowan first come in, he was obviously coaching at Bradford, never had that Premier NRL job, so that would have made more sense. See what you can do. Brad Arthur's coached, it was only 2.5 years ago that Brad Arthur was sat there in the NRL Grand Final with Parramatta, with some of the great...
Regarded as a super coach, isn't he?
Yeah, so that... I don't get the... I don't believe...
Unless he's got a job somewhere else.
I don't believe it's a try as you buy.
It might be him saying, well, look, I'll come, but I'm not sure I want to move my life and family to England.
I reckon it'd be more Brad Arthur's choice.
Somebody told me, I can give you a little bit of insight, somebody did say that was the problem at first, that Brad Arthur had said not to come for 6 months. He felt it was to do it all in that period of time once. So they've obviously come to something against that. They probably said... And that's what I keep thinking. Is it that they're saying, let's see what you can do? And if you can change the Cubs mentality, they've got a 3-year deal if you could. You're saying, would you take that chance? It's Leeds Rhinos. I think most coaches would take a chance on going to Leeds Rhinos and proving the same. I told you before, didn't I, that at least 5 other coaches at top clubs said to me all year, I'd love a chance to get Leeds into that top 6. I think.
Well, these are a lot of them are mid-level super coaches.
No, I'm on about super coaches.
But that doesn't make any sense if they're already in the job.
Because they see that there's enough fundamentals at Leeds. There's enough fundamentals at Leeds to do something. They all think there's something there. So if you're going to be a chef, they think there's something there.
But the point
is, Leeds round. Brad Arthur's a job for 2 years.
It's not 2 years. He got fired at the end of this season.
So he's out of work. And NRL's very hard, Joe. There's only 12 jobs. There's some top quality coaches. He might not have a job, Joe.
I doubt it.
What do you mean?
I doubt it.
Right.
I know what you mean.
I'll just give you my quick thoughts. I can see Brad Arthur coming here. Is this part of a jigsaw play further down the line, Rowley leaves Salford, goes to Leeds, Arthur's then available for potentially Salford, or as Craig says, he could see potentially the 50-1
Brad
shot
Arthur
Ian
ending
Watson
up at
going
Salford
to Leeds.
Red Devils is 1,000,000 to 1, Mick.
Well,
I don't see why Leeds would spend what I imagine is quite a lot of money to bring someone in till the end of the season just to try and get that 6th spot.
are you saying this is more long term than?
Well, I don't see how there's not an opening to him coming long term.
Do you know what the inside thing's been and all? This is an interesting one. I know, again, Ian Blease has had Paul Rowley for 3.5 years.
Yes.
Bleasy probably got the job at Leeds before, again, same respectful, before Paul. Because they do, a lot of them do want the Leeds job. It's an open thing, that is the premier job in the country. Ian Blease then goes in and he's the boss. He's now the boss of all Leeds. And I'm telling you, because I spoke to him last week, Gary said to him, it's all yours, kid.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to back you up, but you are the man.
Yeah.
If Ian's... I always thought Paul, this is me being respectful, were the boss at Salford. Paul were quite the boss. As in, I think if Paul wanted to, he got it. If you're Ian Blease and you're at Leeds and you've got the choice of anybody, do you bring Paul over? We're saying this respectful because he's got a great job with Salford and we should be respectful to their fans and their sponsors. But do you bring him over if you don't want him dominating you again? Do you get me? Because Ian might think, you know what, I want the fresh clean here because I'm the boss now. This is different. This is not Salford where he was the CEO, Paul King's the chairman. But I'm telling you now, Paul Rowley runs... I don't know if you've had any dealings with him. I have. He's the boss. There's no doubt. He's probably a stronger...
Did Bleasy have Watson? Was he there when Watson was there?
Watto a boss.
But Bleasy was there when Watto was
Yeah,
there.
neighbours, big friend. So the coaches are very dominant. So honestly, more than any other club I deal with, the coaches are very dominant at them clubs.
But surely then that's how Bleasy likes it. Or are you saying that Bleasy might actually now want someone who's a bit more
100%, he's the boss.
a puppet to it?
No, I'm saying somebody we could say, listen, I'm going to bring somebody in and just to tell you you're coming in and I'm the man. I don't think that happened. And I'd be
More in recruitment senses.
and everything, running the club. You know, I used to go and see Ian Watson with players.
Yeah.
I didn't see Richard Marshall a lot, I've got to be honest. I think that, but then Paul is Mr. Salford. If you were to players, you know when you're at Leeds, in the A-day of Leeds, Gary was the boss. He hasn't been for, again, respectfully so. God, when I first went to Leeds, Gary were like, I'm not saying the boogeyman, but he was the boogeyman, you know what I mean? He was the person who walked in, they're like, oh God, Gary's here. I've seen Gary storm into change rooms in the A-day, and he's giving me, everybody, you won't be it. So Gary, do you get me? Probably
He's kind of transformed from a very young, hungry, energetic Joe Biden at the start of his presidency into...
A young, energetic person, Joe Biden, mate.
Well, listen.
I don't think that's been described for Joe.
Don't put Gary as Joe Biden now, for God's sake, for the murders. Don't be saying. What I'm saying is, it's a very interesting thing with Ian. I think. Imagine like you going somewhere now. You've got the job of your dreams. You've got the salary of your dreams. You've got the power of the biggest club, and then do you bring like? I've got friends who are thinking. Am I bringing? And I love them. Yeah. I could mention one now. I could say one of my best friends, but I don't think I could work with him. I'd just say it's not going to work.
So, like, let's say Joe got director recruitment job at Cass. Would he bring you in? He said it's like that.
No, that's family. It's different. I'd say it's the friend who you're thinking, God, he's going to always want to say. Right. He's going to always, you know what I mean? It's always be. What I'm saying to you is, it's different mechanics. Paul didn't get the job at Leeds before Ian. Ian's the boss. Be interesting.
So based on that, you're almost saying he could get Watto or Rowley, or he definitely won't get either.
I just think the second one wouldn't surprise
really
me.
Clear it up.
The second prize wouldn't surprise me. Brad Arthur being told you're coming in, do a great job, you've got the job. I think that's a very good option. I think everyone's on that. Paul's already signed and it's done. I don't think so. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to.
Do you think Bleasy wants to be the head of recruitment rugby director and be more influential on recruitment?
100%.
Okay.
And if you've dealt with him at Salford and you've dealt there a lot, you know that was the case. Ian was a facilitator. He wasn't the ID.
Yeah.
I want him.
Yeah.
Ian would say, I'll do what my coach wants, and I will deliver the deal, negotiations to fit within our salary cap.
Whereas he wants to be a bit more like Chris Chester, where
100%. Well, I hope so. I want to talk about Leeds job to bring somebody in to do that. And if I were Gary Etherington, I'm bringing in Gleeson to do that.
Yeah. To take over from what Gary did in years ago, less so.
Gary's always had his coach's input, but Gary had a massive say in the day of players coming in.
Yeah.
And where he valued him. Gary didn't like him, and sometimes Kath, if they didn't like him, you could feel it. You could think, not for me.
Yeah.
I always remember a player called, I'm not going to mention his name, so it's not fair, but this player I'd put in and they'd come back and Gary wasn't fancying him. Gary never wanted Paul McShane to leave, and he used to hurt him. And I think if it had been a bit of the old Gary, he'd have stopped it.
Right, yeah.
But I think
That's a good example,
he'd let it go a bit then and said, but before he said no chance, he stayed. And by the way, he stayed longer than you are. Gary was that person.
Yeah.
Well, as Joe's announced, Brad Arthur's gone there. What happens, what twists and turns between now and the off-season, who knows? Just a little bit on the international game. We all watched or attempted to watch England versus France and the French internationals, 90th anniversary celebrations. Just a quick bit on that. Obviously, we know about the streaming issues, the fact that the BBC, Sky, ITV, Channel 4, no one wanted to touch the England international, so it was left to the RFL to stream it, and we all know there were hundreds of fans, if not thousands, who couldn't log on to watch it. The production.
I was one of many.
The production values. No disrespect to some of the people who I've worked with in the past, but a simple 2-camera setup. It was very stodgy and slow. The video referee decisions were taking, I think, 5.5 minutes because they couldn't find the cameras. That first French try, it was 5.5 minutes before they said there was a try. It was this absolutely partial. Very disappointing. The crowd was 4,000. This was supposed to be a celebration of 90 years of French rugby league, everything that they've had thrown at them when Nazi Germany come to power and rise, and obviously the French government themselves suppressing rugby league. It was an absolute farce. It was disappointing. Craig, we've got to call it as it is. What on earth are IMG and the RFL playing at?
But there's got to be some fingers pointed at the French side as well. Then, if they were only getting so few,
I agree, Jimmy. But I'm going back to when I was sat with Matt Dwyer, the president of IMG, and he's saying we've worked out that there will be a blank weekend indefinitely now during this 12-year partnership, and it'll always be England versus France. This come from IMG. This wasn't the RFL. IMG said because they want to grow the game in London, they want to grow the game in France. Yeah. So what better than having England versus France every year? So this was a standalone fixture, and what spectacularly backfired is, and I said this to the RFL, you're wanting the whole sort of English pyramid of rugby league fans, England Rugby League, to fly out to Toulouse, but yet you've got Championship on at the same weekend, you've got the Women's Super League on at the same weekend, you've got League One taking place at the same weekend. So the only fans that could fly out were Super League fans, and clearly none of them flew out.
Well, out of 4,000 fans, how many of those do you think?
We don't know, there's no estimates.
But how many stayed for Bradford Toulouse?
Well, none, because they all flew back. The point I'm trying to say, Jimmy, is it was embarrassment, and I don't want to bag the game.
It was a curtain raiser, though, wasn't it?
Featherstone Toulouse there was actually more people at Featherstone versus Toulouse.
It wasn't even at the same stadium.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not curtain.
I
thought it was directly before the Featherstone Toulouse game.
It was, but there was more people.
So that's called a curtain raiser. That's what I said.
The point I'm trying to say is there was more people coming in for the Featherstone Toulouse game than there was for England-France.
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking.
So clearly something has gone wrong.
All I'm asking is, did many stay to watch the Toulouse game, or did literally the stadium empty and then it refill?
No. They stayed, and there was more coming in for that game.
Yeah, but you just think they could get more fans in for a double header like that, wouldn't you? That's the sad thing.
The couple of things, Mick. The reason I was laughing is I don't know somebody's got trainers on here, and
It's awful, isn't it?
It's one of the worst smells, and I've got a feeling I'm sat next to him,
Whoever's
and
not
he's
got
on,
socks on,
and he's on my left. I honestly, I keep getting it, and it's like,
I do.
have you ever had smelling salts each day? I'm telling you, if you've ever had them,
I'm glad it's not me.
and it hits me, and I've never in my life smelled it. Honestly, it's bad. So sorry for, I keep on.
That's why I'm leaning.
I think I'm in rave with Mick today. It's bang on. And then secondly, Mick, I really don't want to comment on it myself because it's. Listen, unluckily for Sean Wayne, he couldn't get there all week and last couple. I can't even get into it because I'm that embarrassed by the full escapade of what they've put on.
Yeah.
And now it's all come out. I just think we should all have the T-shirts on. It's typical rugby league, and why only us? Why always? What's the thing? Why always us? What the famous footballer went on. But I think when he scored, what's he called? I don't know, last week Bellingham, when he said it's always me. It's always us, Mick. Unfortunately, it's always rugby league.
But this is such a massive own goal because.
I think it's the fact that Jimmy's called it a curtain raiser to a championship rugby league game and it turns out you're kind of right because there were more fans in the same stadium. So yes, you can't. But the fact that it's even been called a curtain raiser, an international rugby league game where it's Super League, so players that wouldn't even dream of playing champ. No offence to all champ fans and supporters, it is the biggest disgrace to any sport.
Different spectacle watching international saying I want to stop and do a curtain raise to watch.
Yeah, and I mean I just use that term lightly rather than it being
as if the international's not the big main event and they played a nice champ game.
I've heard Mick were watching it and watching England poured out, and then when he saw Bradford warm up, he got his thing going again, didn't he?
Bradford weren't playing, but if truth be told, I actually enjoyed the Toulouse-Featherstone game more than the England internationals, and great result for the women, great result for the England men. But like you say, because Sean Wayne, he's had the ankle operation, he didn't even go over. Listen, I feel really sorry.
One of the best I've heard, and this is not against it, so listen, I've heard Wayne were devastated. Absolutely said it's 1,000,000 to 1 that they've said they can have this up, and it's that bad, the pain. So that happens. But then I think last year would ever happen, and then, but I don't know. Even
was the women's game on before the men's game?
Yes.
So there was 3 games.
There was 3 games on, yes.
And there was no more than 6,000 in total.
No.
Wow.
Listen, it's got to get better. IMG are getting lack of confidence in a lot of areas. I'm not going to judge them until I don't do enough on IMG. At one time we did. You to be fair to Mick, you helped me because you give me all the information. I could get a judgment of what you thought.
I didn't do bad either. I thought I'd give you a bit on the positive. Mick with
no
all the negative.
No offence. It wasn't you who made this show. It was me and Mick.
His ego's running wild. Hulkamania's in town. Hulkamania's in town.
The point I just wanted to make quickly was IMG, at that meeting in Manchester 3 years ago, IMG, this is their 3rd season now. Whether you like it or not, they've been involved. They're getting the 600 grand payment every year for their services in digitalisation and their expertise. Look, we can talk a bit more about IMG later on, but fundamentally they have decided England versus France is the best way to grow the sport. But this is where the criticism of IMG is going to come from myself, because they have sold England versus France as, the most suitable opponent for England, because you're not going to get New Zealand or Australia or Samoa or Tonga coming, during a season. So they've said Yorkshire, Lancashire, that's consigned to the 80s and the 90s. The England Exiles, no, we're not repeating that. There was an idea for potentially Super League Championship and that got thrown out. So they've decided that the best way to prepare Sean Wayne and England for future internationals, because don't forget the Ashes are back next year, is England versus France. But for mine, IMG take a lot of brunt of the criticism as well, because it's up to them to negotiate the TV deals and the contracts, and they've hit a stumbling block. Whether IMG genuinely thought we can put England versus France on a blank weekend for the Super League teams, we can get it on BBC, we can get it on Channel 4, we can get Sky Sports to give us money and show it, but they've all turned around and said no.
Let me give you a fundamental one here.
And rightly so, because it was a shambles. Who wants to show 4,000 fans rattling around in a 20,000 all-seater arena? It's embarrassing.
Let me tell you this, and I know you've just said about the War of the Roses, and maybe that's the different title to what it'd be now, because I suppose you're opening up Cumbria, London, and you're opening up different areas. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We have got the sponsors and the funding to do the under-18s that they've stopped this year. We will do it. Show me the money. I'll have the people to do it. We'll put 2 games on for the under-18s. As long as we get the chance to market it, put our commentary team on. One of the greatest in the world. As long as they let us do our own thing, we will fund it all. And I've got permission for a stadium at no cost. I've got the permission to use that stadium for training at no cost. And I could potentially, I'm not going to confirm, but potentially the Lancashire side as well would be on. So we're prepared. This is an open thing to Rugby League and to IMG. I would then say, if we make a success of that, let people have one go at putting that on the war, not the War of the Roses, we'll call it something else. Let us put something on. If you think England and France is the best thing we can do, I think it's the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard in my life. And I think unless they let people have a go to put something on and say, let us have a go. Because I can only talk about the players. The players I cannot think of a better lineup than saying Truman and Lewis, let's say Harry Smith and let's say Doddsy, whatever. The matchups are mouth-watering. We have the same debates as fans. Who's best winger in comp? Yeah. Is it Tom Johnson? Is it Ashanley? Is it Tommy Makinson? Is it the Wigan lad? We get all these answers. We get all these answers into one. I don't get it.
It's the best.
The biggest thing now is keeping NRL. The biggest budget the NRL have got, the biggest profit is Origin.
Correct.
By far, they're using Origin money for the next 10 years to budget to borrow other things. It's nearly 180 million industry. It's keeping everything afloat. The players are getting 100 grand now to play whatever to play it. Why are we not? What is wrong with us where we can't see that works? We can't be that thick.
And we've got a real obvious.
And last time we did it,
we
did it in '84 at Cumbrian Ground at Whitehaven. It never worked. Well, don't judge today on that. I don't get what they've got to lose. They've tried Exiles. The last Exiles were a farce. Absolute. Ellery said it. They turned up. We've got 4 days to put a team together. The David Feet arrives on a Wednesday. He's playing on. Yeah. It's just.
Well, they were dropping out, weren't they?
You know it.
Carl Hall was involved. I remember Carl Hall telling me it's partial.
Well, so they've given that a goal. They've given this French international goal. They've tried other things. Why have they not got the one that is actually the template? Is there sticking in your face? No. It's there stick. They ran out the 18s. They've brought the funding for the 18s. I can't get my head around it. Are we talking?
It was our favourite game of the year, wasn't it?
Everybody. They never marketed it right. They never TV'd it right.
It was that Yorkshire-Lancashire game, that series that me and Craig commentated for the RFL in 29, where we found the emergence of Dominic Young.
Loads of them.
Mikey Lewis.
Every year.
Mikey Lewis, Rowan Mills were playing for Yorkshire. And look at Rowan now at Castleford. Great win for them over St Helens at the weekend.
There's a couple of players that you've not really heard of that end up becoming. Lewis Martin.
Pierce Paul played
famously
that game.
scored.
Pierce Paul.
We were sat down with who's this kid from London they're raving about.
Lewis Martin scored 5 in Origin in 2 games. Yeah. So then he's
well, I know we say stuff on this show and we do have a history of saying these great ideas and they're not following through. But Craig, we really need to be knocking down IMG and the RFL.
It's an open invitation. We'll fund the 18s. We'll fund the 18s. And if we do it, they can't have anything to do with it. They've got to just give us due restriction.
Yes.
And then we get our own streaming. And when we give it, any profit can go back into the youth game and the amateur grassroots. There's no profit being made. Just let people have one go at it. That's all we ask. And we're willing to fund everything for the 18th. And I've spoke to every chairman I've spoke to.
Well,
I've said they'll allow the players to come.
It's on.
Yeah. It's on. So it's not like there's anything from the club saying we don't want our players playing.
We've got the hotel. We've even got the hotel funding where they can come and train for a couple. We can do anything they want to do. It's easy. I've got sponsors in place who'll back it financially tomorrow.
Right. Well, there you go. We don't know when this is going out in the future, but let us know in the comments. Do you want to?
We're not doing what the Rugby League to us in the past is when they say great idea. We'll use that. Use lots, shove it out of way, and we'll take it
and do it poorly.
Yeah.
You need to let the professionals, I think. But while we're on IMG...
No, we're doing a preview on the Super League clubs. You've just took us to that left hand.
No, but while we're on IMG, just quickly, Craig, we are in this IMG era. Are you getting your head around how it's going to work at the end of this season? Because, as we know, you've got Wakefield, you've got Leigh, you've got Toulouse, you've got Castleford, you've got Bradford. Those are the 5 at the bottom of the current IMG table. Those are the bottom 5 clubs. They're the ones who are battling it out. Yes, everybody has improved. Huddersfield, Salford, they might get dragged in. Hull FC, we know, we're led to believe they're going to be dropping from an A to a B because their score last season was 15.05 because of their poor performance on the field. They will lose IMG points, so they will drop down and become a B. Right. So that obviously is an extra incentive for Toulouse and Bradford and the clubs behind. But are you fundamentally aware of what's going to happen?
Wakefield for London.
I totally agree with that.
And then 12 months roll it out, like you said, 2 more. And then say, if anybody drops the standards in that 2-year period, you're in big trouble.
Yes. Because
they've got Bradford up, they've got London who can come back up, and they've got Toulouse.
Yes.
And that'll give them clubs a bit more time to build. Maybe it's 2 years or a year. I think that's why you're spending money at your club. Because suddenly that money's been found. And so you know something. Not you yourself, but something's happening at Bradford where they've been told to prepare for something.
Yeah.
London have been told not to spend to prepare for something.
Yes.
And Toulouse have obviously been told that we need you in there. So there's going to be something happening after next year, which will happen.
Yes. The word on the street is it will be going to 14 in 26. And I won't name the person, but one of the money men, there's quite a few money men now at Bradford, rather than having a Ken Davey, a David Hughes, a Simon Moran type of figure, a Paul Caddick at Leeds. It's a collective. You've got very good, honest, hard-working Bradfordians, people who love the club, who are all chipping in. And to quote one of those new investors at the Bradford Bulls at the weekend in Toulouse, he said he's not investing his family's money, his company's money into Bradford to stay in the Championship a season longer. So clearly you can see Bradford now opening the salary cap. You're going to see that transition from part-time to what will be full-time with Super League in the coming seasons. And what I will say is when I spoke to Sylvanoulis after the game, he still firmly believes it's a close shot. He thinks once you get to 14, that's it, the door is shut. You can't see much change whatsoever. So my worry is...
You'd say that because you thought the Darlings, we got told that York were one of them Darlings that they were going to call,
Well, I think Clint's realised at York.
They're not the
Darlings.
Whatever info's going to Clint, it hasn't been great because he's, from being that and everything, what about the push, it's like... So, the street always tells what's coming, Mick. You obviously knows me. Your club's rumbling. Something's happening. London haven't spent, so something's happening. York have, not talking about it again. So I think somebody beneath the street to telling you who's got a chance. And I think luckily for you, Wakefield have got to go up.
Yeah.
Because everything's in place now.
Yeah, Matt Ellis.
For a super club, and Matt Ellis has changed the club round, and we've got this thing happening at Wakefield, which is so special, and get him in there in grassroots. I think the others, you've definitely been, something's been said.
But do you not think the Toulouse, because when we released the points last time...
Toulouse are currently in for next year, yes.
Toulouse were in, weren't they?
Yeah, they are. They're in for next year, currently.
But so do you... Because obviously what Craig's saying there is, I think, probably most common opinion, but it'll just be a straight swap. London are gone and Wakey are in, 100%. And I do think that's 100%. The question is, do Toulouse get in for 2025... or do they have to wait another year? And if they do get in...
They definitely don't get in because they haven't spent all this year.
No, but in terms of the points, they're currently in the top 12.
Based on last year's results.
But it's the indicative...
Well, Cass think they're going to get 15 points. So
the question will be if Cass can definitely overtake
100%.
Toulouse. Yeah.
Which then, like I said, if the word on the street is Wakefield are just short of 15, Castleford are in the 14s, then that does bring Huddersfield and Salford into play.
Exactly.
110%, because Jason Hurst, the Bradford Bulls CEO, said at the fans forum on Monday before we flew out to Toulouse, he said Bradford are in the middle 13s. So whether that's 13.4 or 13.6, 13.7, Bradford are around where Salford and Huddersfield were last season. But as IMG have quite rightly said to me on more than one occasion, Mick, every club is going to be improving. There'll be very few clubs who actually lower their score.
Yeah. To lose, for me, it'll be that,
and
then it'll be 2 years' time, lads. There's your tick list to see what you can do. I know, listen, we've not seen it. We're getting to the ING one later, but we've not seen enough of them. It's not transparent enough.
No.
I'm so disappointed on what they've offered the gamers in the marketing. We had all them. Do you want to share that, Joe?
No.
I'll share it with you. James Ford again.
It was.
While
it was my missus.
It's Frankie sending him.
Joe, we do this show honest as the day is long. Has James Ford called you while we've done this show? Yes or no?
Just before.
No, while we've been doing this show.
No.
But can I forget, Mick, Sam, I've got a little special surprise for Sam.
Oh. Sam's the producer, by the way.
Sam's been very loyal to us over the years, and we've given him some stress at times, and he's given us some fucking stress, let me tell you, in both ways. The way he bollocked me in that car park that day, me and you, I got the bollock. I've never let a human being do that to me, but we let Sam that day.
Oh, God, I remember the car park.
But I want to say to Sam, we've purchased 5 tickets for the UFC, and you're very kind to Joe with the UFC thing, so I want to invite you to come to the UFC with us. You and Joe can do a bit of a show and things together.
Wow.
But I've got a ticket for you, Sam, if you want it. Wow. Yeah, so you let me know.
And by the way, whilst we're here, can I just say thank you to Mr. Carl Fitzpatrick for the Taylor Swift tickets.
Not a freebie.
For the Taylor Swift tickets at Wembley. Thank you.
It's not a freebie, sir.
Why did you?
While we're at it, can I?
So yeah, let's move.
Craig, you were on about IMG in a presence. What do you expect from IMG? Because
I want to get into it later. I don't want to do it now. I want us to go through the list.
I've got about 10 minutes left.
Well, it's not about you. So we've got the list. Let's go to Hull FC, Mick, please. Give us a little intro.
Hull FC, any real surprise that they're in the bottom 2? Well, let's be brutally honest. Season start, did anyone have them realistically mid-table or above, challenging for the playoffs? I mean, I certainly.
No, I think we all had them bottom.
Looking at my list there, I had them just above London, and no surprise to see them above London. They've had a couple of spirited performances recently. I know they had a narrow defeat against Warrington, and it does look like Simon Griggs is slowly turning the tide, but it's not enough. We know the new man's coming in next year. His name's escaped me.
The coach?
Yes.
No, that's
it'll hit me. Cartwright, yes.
Cartwright, John,
Yeah, John Cartwright. Interesting one with him. Back when, this was before Rowan come in, but when Bradford got rid of, or should I say Jimmy Lawes severed ties with Bradford after a defeat against Sheffield in 2016, Cartwright was at Penrith, and he was close to coming over to take over Bradford, but in the end, Brian Smith got the ear of then Chairman Matt Green.
Thank God he dodged a lot.
And
John, you dodged him.
And Rowan Smith ended up at Bradford. So yeah, John did dodge a bullet, but yeah, it's very frustrating to be a Hull FC supporter. I know there'll be a lot of people who talk about Lewis Martin, Logan Moy, some of the young players who I'm impressed with, who I saw in a pre-season friendly against Bradford at Odsal, and against a full-time Bradford side, a full Bradford side, they narrowly, I think they lost by 2 points in the end. So it was a real good effort, and you can see bubbling under the surface there is a lot of potential and a bright future on the horizon, but it's whether or not John Cartwright is going to allow those young boys, those young talent to grow and nurture. But listen, look, I'm in no shocks or surprises.
I think what we need to talk about. I don't think that's the talking point anymore, mate. I think the talking didn't mean that bad. I think the talking point is now looking towards what they're doing for next year. I think that's something we need to discuss.
But you'd expect Moy and Martin to still play a part, or do you see that limited?
Well, the news are that they're trying to get a big money fullback, and they already did sign a big money fullback, but then he turned out to be a bad person. They've had to pull away from it. So I think yes. I think the talking point is what are Hull going to do? Because at the moment, their average age of signing's been about 28, 29. They've signed in some positions where they have these youngsters coming through. I think Cartwright's challenge is going to be get that balance right, because what this bad season's allowed is to see some very good young players who, to be honest, in any other circumstance, at most other clubs wouldn't get a chance. They've been given a chance, and most of them have played amazing and actually earned the right to play next year onwards, going for however how long. I think the balance is then, can Cartwright get these older signings that they've made mixed in with these young players? That's going to be so tough. I think that's going to be so tough because do you disagree or?
I get what you're saying. I don't think you can wipe off this year. I think if you're going to talk about Hull, you've got to talk about what an absolute cup it's been this year. That this has been one of the most, for me, I can't get my head round when we're talking about it. So from Radders winning his 3 Challenge Cups, the club's demise, because they kept that squad old. They kept that squad old and squeezed, did what Leeds did up to 17. They squeezed everything out of an old squad, didn't reinvest into the young ones, and then they just tried to, what I call, he's just put it under your thing. So
I need to look at. I've got.
So I think they didn't invest in the things that they did. I think there's a bit of Leeds in there, and a bit of all. It's fucking rudest thing I've ever seen. That is. So you've got all.
I'll need to go then.
You've got all.
I'll have to
you've
check.
got all of that underwhelming with what they've done, and the fans deserve better. They've all backed them this year. They've gone there with every hope of having whatever year. They've absolutely been pissed off from the greatest night alive. They've then got this youngsters has been given a chance in the worst thing ever. Look at Deneve. They've wrote Deneve off more times than fucking, if Deneve were told, honestly, gone, suddenly, a bit like the young hooker at Cass, when Mac has suddenly they get a chance and they go, you know what, I'm taking it. And this kid's took it. All of a sudden, you're thinking, oh no, we brought Amir in. They've already bought hookers in, so they're going, oh my God, is he actually better? So you're questioning things. The recruiting has been, without a doubt, in my humble opinion, the last 2 or 3 years, not great. James Clark, who's a friend of mine, so I'm going to try and say this as honest as I can. He had a vision, I think, to get the young un, and he put a lot of time into the academy. He put a lot of time into getting the where it was. I used to say to him and plead with him to get the coach who believed in doing. I famously said, Mick, Hull KR will rise, did I?
You did.
And I thought Hull would demise.
Yes.
But then I said a year ago, if Hull see what they've got in the garden, they're going to come back up and challenge Hull KR. But they've got to have a coach who's going to believe wholly and tell the fans and the crowd, we're going to develop 9 or 10 kids here and add the magic. Get ready. In 18 months' time, we're going to deliver you the best thing you've had at Hull, better than the Challenge Cup one. They haven't. If you're playing poker, they bottled it. And they've gone short term, quick, get them in.
Short term.
And they're just plugging holes and plugging holes
freakishly
everywhere.
Short term.
It's scandalous, and if this is what they call recruiting, I don't get it. I can't get my head around any of it.
I'd love to know what Hull FC fans think of the recruitment over the last few months.
Well, the last 2 years.
Specifically the last few months, and how they're shaping up for next year. I genuinely don't know whether Hull FC fans are going to look at the names that are coming in from mainly Lee and Salford and go, oh yeah, we're now going to be a middle table club again. Brilliant.
Well, some fans don't think deep enough, Jimmy, so they'll take they'll go.
That's why I don't know.
Joe told me last night, he said, Dad, some fans go, wow, he's a big name. Without thinking, is he really?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Then you get the real detail fans who go,
so it might be 50-50.
What the effing hell are we doing? Yeah. So you'll always get a nice mix. Some don't think deep enough. And they support a club week to week, don't they?
And that's what I'm getting at. So some people might think, well, this looks great because at least we're going to be better next year.
He could actually be better than us. I'd go for the Bradford. Now they've gone for their average age is that. From having a great youth policy. Ask him. You're doing it.
Well, it's interesting because...
but you might get up with these players, so you might get not bothered.
In my spare room where I do all my commentary notes, I've got quite a few famous...
the dungeon?
No, I've got quite a few famous...
Hear
me out, Craig. It's part of the answer. I've got quite a few, commemorative team sheets from famous Bradford games. And the one that always stands out to me is the 11 homegrown players that John Keir had, that famously beat Leeds at Odsal in 2019. Now, you flick forward, yes, we've had COVID, yes, John Keir's gone, Mark Dunning was there, and now it's Eamon O'Carroll's beast. You've gone from, in the space of 3 or 4 years, to having 11, 10, 9 homegrown players regularly turning out for Bradford, to, at the weekend gone, where you've just got one.
So what's the
in
answer?
Ebenskirk.
What is the sport? What are you thinking? Are you bothered?
Yes, it's something that does concern me, and I know with Brian Noble in his current role, Brian Noble historically likes a certain type of player. Eamon O'Carroll realises if Bradford are to be in that top 3 or top 4, they do need that physicality. And I think there is a little bit of that. The Bradford Bulls Academy hasn't quite had those players coming off that conveyor belt, because I know he's your player, Jamie Gill, Joe, but is Jamie Gill ready to be doing what Eben Skir does in the Championship? I would probably say it would probably harm his career to be doing what Eben Skir's doing. But
that's the wrong way, because you can't compare them Eben now to Jamie now.
No, I know, but what I'm saying
Eben was in Jamie's position at one point.
The point I'm saying
I think the difference is the loving to going into the lads. I don't sense that same love from Bradford. I don't feel that same passion for the young players.
It's when Rowan Truey, there were a lot. They were even the best conveyor belts.
We're going, wow, we've got all these, and it was something.
Ethan Ryan,
every time I did a special guest in the show, you let me in a couple of times, and when you go on about 100%, Bradford,
100%.
You talk about that you can't. I think it's more the love for it, Mick. I think you can turn, Mick. We've seen loads of times. You can see a player who's not been given a chance. You might not think he's becoming a good player, but if you've real love for the player and enough time gets put into him, they turn into good players.
It takes time.
Well, they've got a policy. I think Mick would say to you, if it was promotion relegation, not a franchise, I'd say fans would say, do what you're going to do, I'm not bothered. We're watching England football at the moment. It's the worst football I've ever humanly seen. Yeah. My mates are arguing about it 50 hours a week, and then you get one bloke at end at bar go, I don't give a fuck, as long as we get through to thingy. And you go, you might have a point. So, you know what I mean? So we're debating it all week. If I'm
to answer my own hypothetical question, as the years go by and I'm more involved with everything in rugby league, my criticism for years now, and it seems to get more extreme, is that everything seems so short-sighted. From the top to IMG now, to the big clubs, to the small clubs, because most people's contracts are short in the grander scheme of things, aren't they? Especially as you go down the divisions. The vast majority of players in lower divisions are on 1-year contracts. The coaches are on contracts which can be torn up at any minute, at any level, regardless of how many years they've signed for. And this leads to this, let's just get some immediate success for next week, never mind next season, because we're losing bums off seats and we only get 1,500 fans anyway. We can't afford to drop to 1,000 fans. Or in Hull FC's situation, we can't have Hull KR doing that. Let's try and close the gap to 3 positions behind him next year, rather than think, how can we get back ahead of Hull KR in 3 years' time? So what Hull FC are doing at the moment seems to me is the most obvious. Let's try and finish a few positions higher next year. On paper, I don't see how Hull FC are going to be able to go bang next year.
Probably because the answer, Jimmy, probably is because the people who own the club haven't got long-term visions as well.
And that's what I'm saying, because they're in there to try and make an immediate change.
Who can come and take the club on?
Yeah, and maybe. But ultimately, if the fans and if everybody just wants that short-term, immediate success, then just do it.
Get rid of Academy.
Yeah, and ultimately, is that where we're at, where you just have to accept, actually, other than a couple of the big clubs, like what Saints have done for many years and what Wigan have done for many years and what Leeds were doing for many years and have now dropped off, and try and plan for the future more. There's only really Wigan and Saints who've done it over the last 5 or 6 for a sustained period, and guess what? They're still the top 2. You know, and Leeds have still trying to, sort out the mess left from hanging on too long and not replacing sensibly. You know, when you say Hull KR had a good couple of years doing it, and now maybe they're going the other way, because now they're trying to get to the very top, and that has to involve splashing people or cash on people who are ready to go.
The problem is when you approach it as we do, we look after 16-year-olds with the parents there, and you sit with the parent and he says to you, which club should we go to? And then you sit there and you go, well, and if you be honest, which you try and do, his dreams to play for that club, you go, he ain't got a chance of making it at that club. They have got no thought at all of playing York in the next 3 years. But you've got director of football director of youth, the coach is telling that kid he'll be in first team, they've got this, and they'll pick out one player and they'll go, look at him. And they won't tell you about the other 17 who they're not interested in. They're not telling you, oh, by the way, you're going on loan in a year. I know you're signing for us, but we're going to get you on loan because we can't be asked to develop you. We're hoping that they do it. And so this is your pathway. You very rarely get that transparency at all. There's not many who can follow through what they say. So the word is 2 years ago that we're going to try and get 3 clubs to develop all humans, and it might be better off. Let's be honest. All rest play it anyway. There's probably 3 or 4 clubs who really have invested in keeping them. The rest are probably playing a game of whatever. They reckon, put all investment, if they've got some investment at Rugby League, let the ones who can do it, and the ones who are ticking boxes for the franchise, ticking boxes to tell fans we believe in it, just get rid, because they're not really. But look, I've just said there, how can anybody not see what's happening at all with them young kids? Harvey Barron, David Litton's last game, he was best he's played. You see, I'm looking at David going, they're going to be a proper player. He's huge. These kids are going to... Poor old Deneve's only got given that. Young Charles, he got given too much too early, taken out. They've got 8 or 9 players here. They've got the back row. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, Logan Moore, sensation, keeping Jack Walker out of a team. And Jack's pushing and he's saying, Craig, he's playing well every week. I can't get my head round what they're not seeing. Do you know what I mean? You're saying, do you think this coach will buy into it? Do you think this coach? Surely unless surely you tell the coach before he comes, you say, mate.
Unless they're saying, look, right, we're going to bring in Zach because Zach might have another year. Zach's a brilliant competitor and he's a winner, isn't he? But they might go, look, we'll bring Zach in because he's going to have another year or 2 and he might play less games and it gives other players, our young players, unless to be fair, they are doing it where we're getting loads of old legs in who can deliver next year to a mid-table standard, but it gives us chance to not put too much on these young lads too soon. And Lewis Martin might get another 10 games next year and Logan Moyne might get another 10 games next year, but we can't have him playing 20-odd games each year. And it might be...
I'd deal with it, Jimmy. It's not that.
No, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to it's not. Yeah. I don't think it is that. I think it's the other one. I think it's the other one and saying, let's get closer to KR, let's get a bit better so there's no risk. I don't know if you speak to Adam honestly and speak to Richie. No one knows that that's what's happening. We all got told Richie were coming in, his father-in-law were going to invest in the club, Adam were going to either take a lower share or this. James got the boot. And that's Adam went into that position more hands-on, and him and Richie are running the club. I suppose what the fans want to hear, and not the blancmange, is what is actually going to happen now. Are we investing in a 5-year plan? Are we investing in this? Or are we just trying to keep somebody happy till somebody else comes in? Yeah. If Richie and his father-in-law haven't got the brass, do you know what I mean? If they're not going to do it, then who's going to come in and do it?
Well, welcome back to the full 80 minutes on Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. We're doing our half-season report, our half-season review of how the Super League has started. And we've just done Hull FC there, Craig. Another club that are very close to Hull FC in that sort of bottom four mix is the Castleford Tigers. Recent results have those shown. Improvement is on the way for Craig Lingard and the Castleford Tigers.
Yeah, listen, club close to my heart. I've always said that to you, haven't I? I can feel something happening. Whether they let the process happen, we've been here before. I think just look at the young hooker a bit like Hull with Deneve. Look at the young hooker at Cass. The legend Paul McShane's been injured and coming to the end. Paul will tell you that. This Kane's got his chance and he's took it. The emergence of Corey Hall going back there. Lewis Senior, Innes Senior, Sam Wood. Wow, Sam Wood, just sensational. Alex Mellor's in the form of his life. There's an happy camp. I brought Matt English in. I thought he was something they needed. He's very good at slowing the ruck down, just wrestling on the floor, where the others sometimes can struggle on the floor. They don't. He's got that ability. It's a very happy camp at the moment, Mick, and you can see it. That's why they nearly beat KR the week before. They put a right performance against Wigan, and then they ultimately beat Saints. They've got London this week. They could go on a run here. Happy camp. I want to see more direction off the field. Do we know who owns the club? Is it Fulton? Is it or is it the new man? how much they need to sort their shit out, whether they're going to go forward with it, whether they're going to do it together. That needs to be sorted out. If you watch Cass 18s, Mick, there's been some players coming. There's young Winley, the halfback. Wow. There's Rooney. There's Jaden. I'm just naming a few. So they've got some coming, Mick. I know I'm in talks now for 3 or 4 players. Maybe one before end of year, and maybe 3 or 4 for next year. I feel the 15 vibes coming, Mick. So big call to make, but I know in 15 at Cass we started to help put something together. Ultimately, we put 3 men of steel in there over a period of time, plus another 8 or 9 players. I love it, Mick. I love that they're giving young uns a chance. I love the opportunity for young men to become proper players. What I hate is, you know this because you've heard me for years, we can't then get them in a good position and then bring all top enders in. I hate it. I think if you're going to do the journey, do it, see where it takes you. Just talked about Hull having all these young ones and then all of a sudden, I hope they do, Mick. I hope they've got the guts to tell the fans what the dream is, and in 18 months' time we'll give you a top 6 side and we'll go for it. If they bottle it before that and just keep putting fillers in, it never works. If you're going to put older players in, make sure they've still got a big appetite, but they're only there to help the group come through. Do you get me? Mm. You've got to decide that as a coach. You've got to decide that as a group of people. You've got to probably make a young man like Sam Wood the same when it leaders at groups. Let him be it. Let somebody who's there. Would he be the biggest success story, Mick, I've ever seen? I'm not kidding. I watch Sam, and I'm going to be brutally honest. And Sam sometimes likes what we do at Show Me. He's not our player, by the way, but he looks very well mannered lad, and I like him a lot. I reckon he's got the biggest heart I've seen of a long time, because Sam I used to watch him at Batley, I watched him at Huddersfield struggle. He played back row, they said he can play centre. I'm like, Sam would play. I couldn't, and I think I can see it, and I couldn't. He went to KR, I was like, he's slow. What we didn't judge is the art of a lion. And he's got he wants to be the best he can be. The lads were telling me that he said, I'm not going to drink alcohol for 8 months. If I'm going to lose my career, I'm going to lose it by giving it everything. Yeah. He got to send a fitness instructor. He got to send people to help him. They should be using Sam all around the country at the moment as a player. He's just been picked for England.
I know.
I can't believe he got injured, but
it's that achievement. You've gone from Dewsbury to the elation of.
What, did he come to Bradford once? Or did they refuse? I'm sure he was offered at Bradford, and I don't think they took him.
I don't think. No, he was offered to Bradford. He's never played for Bradford.
Yeah, and so you're looking at now. You're looking at the England number 3, and people still said they're still doubting him. I heard them all last week. How can Sam Wood play for England? Well, I'll tell you how he can play for England, because he's got an heart size of a melon. He must have an application. He must have everything what it makes a top player. Top player's not all talent, Mick.
Am I reading the room here, Craig? Is what Castleford are doing right here, right now, very reminiscent of Hulkinston Rovers 3 years ago?
Yes. Yeah, and I bought into people at KR, and this is my personal thing, and I bought into Danny Wilson here. I love Mark Grattan, they're my friends, but I bought into Danny Wilson. People could say, well, Danny Maguire at KR and at Cass, so Craig will help. The famous words of Mike Smith was to Neil Hudgell when we brought Danny as director of football. He said, well, he's not going to let him fucking fail, is it? He's not going to let him fail, is he? Mm. And it was like he thought he knew that I would make sure, If I believe in somewhere, Mick, I believe wholeheartedly that I wouldn't put my players anywhere I don't believe. I believe in Cass, and unless they do something different, I'm gone. I'm not saying I'm gone, but I'm saying I'm not selling that to my players about this is the player. This is a club to put a top young player because they're going to give him opportunity. Once that light goes off for me, I've gone. You'll notice I don't go to certain clubs. I just don't do it. I would never take somebody who needs time. Let's take the twins. The twins. They've been doubted, Mick, more than most players I've ever seen, still to this day. Well, Innes is top. He's third best winger in comp on what they're saying. He's averaging 130-40 metres. Third, second top try scorer. He gets better every week. He's starting to back his in a bit more. He's got his 10 GPS pace. Lewis Senior, when he came over to KR, debut, 2 tries, 160-yarder, Next game did it again, got injured for a thing. So, Moise, do you see Moise last week?
Yes.
Out for 12 weeks and playing like that. That I mean, a lot of them, Sam Wood, a lot of them were at KR, weren't they?
They were.
They were. Corey
Rowan Milnes.
Corey.
It's almost like they've been given a taste of that Super League dream, that vision, and then it's been snatched away from them. And this is like the second
coming.
Yeah, the second coming.
And there's also
of a lot of the players, and fair play to Castleford. They deserve a lot of credit for backing this particular vision. It's great to see. This model, yeah.
If they keep this model and don't get carried away and keep it for 18 months and keep making Kane better. The loose forward's a fantastic player, by the way. I don't know what his name is, Mick. The loose forward who plays hooker with Kane from Australia. Yeah. He's sensational. Castle does a bit special because they should have then the cap space to bring in the top. Then you go, here we go.
We complement this young.
Oh, and then you bring the real deal in. The real deals come in, not the filler. You go, here, we've got 150 grand for a so-and-so here. Let's bring him in and let's see where that So I think that allows the cap to bring in the top. And that's by the way, getting them 3 or 4 players like Wigan have done right. Bevan, Wardle, and Jai, Luke Thompson. Getting that high quality is what Leeds have suffered with. It's what Saints probably have suffered a little bit with of the last 2 or 3 years. You get me?
Yeah, no.
Remember when Saints brought Barber across?
Yes.
I've never seen. He took it by storm, didn't he? He was best player for 15 months until he got a bit reckless.
Yeah, and then
I don't think I think that's key to making sure you're planning now for that. If I were at Cass, I'd be planning now for that. I'd be saying, right, I've got a year to get 2 or 3 massive people and get Cass rocking again. Get Cass. Cass have got a good history with overseas players. They like Cass because it's a very hometown rangy. They like it. Junior Moores, Jesse.
Similar fair,
do you know what I mean? Solomona for 2 years, what best winger in comp, wasn't he? Benny Roberts.
Yeah.
So they've had it. The famous one, Nick Howe.
Yeah.
He might go in top 3 of all time. Is it Thierry Nicow? He took it apart.
Yeah, the former Cronulla.
Yeah, I love what they're doing. I think Lingart's doing a great job. Craig is different. It must be different for Craig. He's motivating the team, but he's got them playing for him. Danny Maguire and Scott Morrell doing a great job. Danny Wilson, I think there's something happening. Yeah, 100%. And there's something happening in the youth. They need to sort out the top, Mick. They need to sort out who's going to push that club forward.
And just a final point on Castleford. They've not had it all their own way on the field this season because the club have had to invest in Weldon Road, the jungle. They've had to invest in a big screen. They've had to invest in improving the facilities to give them their best chance of securing their Super League status for next season.
Rightly so. And I think Martin's investment coming into the club and buying so much to the club, and they've used his money and the council's money to do this with. They're doing it as we speak. They think they're going to get 15 points, which will put them well clear of any danger at all. If Mark Grattan, who's done an unbelievable job on a low budget, by the way, for a lot of years, I think if Mark delivers 15 points under his tenure, that's the best job he's done.
Would that even eclipse if Castleford had won the grand final in 17?
Oh, not about winning it, but get in there. Yes, for me, yes. Make that your legacy. Make that your legacy, that you keep Cass in that league through bringing in investment and spending it in the right areas. I think being a Cass fan in the next 18 months, you'll be dancing on the ceiling if you wait.
Wow.
There you go. Wow. And I wasn't wrong last time in 15, and I don't think I don't.
No, you weren't wrong when you preached and you give the show me the money gospel with what was going to happen to Hull Kingston Rovers. So
yes, and we went public with it, didn't we? So I'd say leave it 18 months, get ready. Fasten your seatbelts, and you'll see something happen. That'll be special.
Moving further up the table, Lee Centurions having it a little bit tougher this time around. We know that out of the clubs that are currently in the Super League, they're one of the clubs that we can say have lost IMG points because they didn't retain the Challenge Cup, and they're not going to be as high in the table in those playoff positions. So we do know Lee will lose some IMG points, but Derek Beaumont is quietly confident they will be above a Toulouse, they will be above a a Castleford, a Wakefield, a Bradford, and they will survive the red line on the top 12.
I think they will. And I've watched them twice live this year, and on the day they're second best team in attack, or maybe first in the league. I think that if they get into the playoffs, nobody wants to play Lee. The shape that they threw at Lee this year, I've not seen anybody. Do you know when you used to watch Cass team take a team apart from Powley?
Yes.
And you saw the way that they got you. Wigan used to do it when they first brought that stacking in system. They got you with numbers, it were all over. Lee were that good in attack with detail that they didn't have to get touched when they went and scored. It were like brilliant. They just knew what they were all doing. I think who's the Mon?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you mean.
The new signing, sorry, apologies. Moylan. I think he's probably top 3 signing at season. Lammy's still a class. You don't want Lee in playoffs. I think Lee are what they are. If Lee scrape into 6, I'm telling you now, honestly, I'm telling you, every single club, I know because I'm lucky enough to talk to coaches, and I've said before, and when they detail their attack, they all pull a face because they know if Lee can stay in the arm wrestle, they'll get you. They score points on people. Dangerous in playoffs. I can't speak highly enough for Derek, whether you like Derek or whether you're not. He's some people, he's Marmite. For me, he's not. For me, he's done what, and praise to Adam Pearson, praise to any person who buys a club, Mick, Ken, all of them, David Hughes, we've all got to give the raps.
It's a thankless task, isn't it?
Jesus Christ.
It is a thankless task with the TV deal decreasing to 18 million.
Yeah.
You literally...
It's heartbreaking, isn't it?
I always remember talking to Michael Carter last season before he left Wakefield, and he's like, you're constantly writing checks and literally giving money out.
So I think anybody who's there and does it, so Derek deserves anything. There wouldn't be a Lee without Derek. I did a box this year against Leeds. Got invited by Lewis Johnson's family to a box. They work in that area. You want to see, there were counsellor in, there were other people. You want to see how highly they spoke of Derek, the Lee people. He were revered. They said he does a lot for charity, he does a lot for people in local. They said Derek does things and doesn't tell nobody. I honestly, and I were like, everyone expects Degsy, if he does that, he'll tell them because it's Degsy in it, and I think he done. I think they were saying the opposite. They were saying, mate, you won't believe what he'll drop things off somewhere just to help somebody, or he'll drop a check in, not say a word and get off. So I think we've got Derek. I think he's got a big heart, Derek. So I think Lee will be all right. The only thing I'm hearing is I think they've had a fallout with an agent. That's why you're seeing a lot of players leaving, because I think they're saying we don't want his players in, and that's happening as we speak.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing this year's been a disruptive thing. It'll be, I think they relied, Chesley's very good at his job, and I think Chesley had a great relationship with the agent, and now that's not as strong as it was. So I think that's why you're seeing the change. I've heard they're going to do an academy, and that's what they're setting up, and Chesley told me a little bit. We've asked for this for 10 years. This is, Derek, from me and Mick, that if you do this, it's better than getting to Challenge Cup final and winning it. We think that if you can establish, them young lads at Lee and Miners Welfare and leaving to go Saints, Wigan and Warrington.
And you're stopping that player drain, you're keeping them in the Lee systems. That's
big enough for
news,
us.
Great news.
Yeah.
Just on agents, you personally, Craig, deal with a lot of clubs. We won't mention any names, but throughout your time, you've how easy is it sometimes when relationships sour between agent and club, and can that necessarily be repaired?
A famous agent once said to me, probably when I first started, he said, if you don't get banned from ground, you're not doing your job. Well, I've never been banned from a ground. I had an argument with the chairman this week, and I went at it, and I said, listen, you've effing put my name anywhere with anybody. Let's see what happens. Let's see if one person in this game can put something on me. And that's how passionate it gets you. I said, go and talk to them all, and you can come back. I said, by the way, I can't do that with your name, but I can do it with mine. I think I can only speak for myself. I think I've my integrity in every deal I've ever done. Only thing I get negative about, Mick, is the model. Everyone knows me, doesn't it? When they do things that are just stupid, like what are you doing? The grand final cannot be won by putting these players together over a period of time and thinking they can gel. You've got to go and develop from the bottom. You've got to look after the local amateur clubs, the grassroots club. You've got to be going. They've got to feed the clubs, which is the grassroots. Why is each club not giving 10 grand a year to amateur clubs? We're losing amateur clubs every week. Why are they saying money don't matter? They're bringing in an overseas player, yet they won't put 10 grand into amateur club. Yeah. It just, but they don't put designated coaches. That's we've met some colourful characters, haven't we? I mean, your club's had about 5. I would into 2 liquidations with Bradford. I wouldn't receive us things, and I went and did all that fundraising. I gave me Sam Burgess squad number 28 away to thing. I gave me Morley top away. I gave everything, and we thought we were going to save the club. And the characters that have come in and out of it. There'd be certain clubs, Mick, I won't piss on. If I'll be honest, I just wouldn't want, because I don't think the heart's in it. And if the heart's in it, why would I put somebody I love? The players, your players' relationship, you can't do it with them all, Mick. You can't have that relationship with them all. You can't. It's impossible. One that they don't want to sometimes give you that they're happy just for you to see them when you do. They love you, but some people want to, there's a real, non-stop. I was thinking about it the other day, and shout out to Ben Curry. Been with Ben since he was 16 and a half, and I've had about 15, 10-year players.
Yeah.
And me and Chips have had I went to his wedding night at Manchester, Posh Hotel. I saw him make his debut. England, we've been through 3 transfer things together, maybe 4. We were very close to going Leeds, this last one. The one before, we got some Aussie interest, so we've had little things. He's just had his testimonial year. He's probably in form of his life. He's definitely talked about Warrington and Saints next, but he's definitely enjoying himself again, the big smile on face. But I only need thumbs up with Benny. It's weird as hell. I can't explain it. Lads just pissed, didn't they? They said, he loves Ben Curry that much. He's got Ben Curry pillars. He laughs because he's one of my favourites. He still is. But Benny just, now and then I just said, you good, Benny? And he'll go, yeah, you good. And then Mary saw me. I saw Ben Curry at a game this year. Or this year, at end of last year. And he saw me. But Mary actually said, wow, you were hugging like you were, there's something there. Do you know what I mean? And you give him an hug and you sat there and he looked, and it's a look in each other's eyes like, wow, we've been all this together. I can't think of any young people who want to be an agent or anybody. If you haven't got that relationship, and sometimes it just breaks down. I've never got rid of a player. I'd like to. Honestly, Mick, over the last 15 years, I'd like to. Oh my God. I've seen them pull stunts and I've let feel like saying, mate, you're having a nightmare. But my responsibility, they've done it to me. I've had about 18 do me. You don't forget about it. I don't anyway. I would never forget. And I'm happy to say hello, but that's it. That's all they get. That's the way it has to be. Because you put a lot of time in, and once they do it, what can you do? What? I'm good now, actually. My mate said to me yesterday, you're not as bad now, are you, if somebody did that to you? I said, no, because after a bit, you've got to realise that's, I'm not saying that's the name of the game, but disloyalty's there. When the same person who's ambitious, when it comes to you, is the same person who down the line, mate, you're looking thinking, God, he could do me here. I never thought I'd say that, but you have. That's just a part of, I suppose, being an agent. Some other agents are better than me at that. They just go, because it's money to them. They just replace it with somebody else and it's money. I think I lose a friend, so it's hard, isn't it? Well, I've definitely lost some good friends. I got a text the other day from a player who was in Australia, and who I'm not long with, but I was close to her, and it was bizarre because, how are you? I was this, I was that, I was this, and I'm like, you sat there going, I don't know what to say. So it's like, is it like your ex-girlfriend saying, how are you, mate? How are you? How are you, Craig? How are you? And I'm like, I'm all right. How are you? We've shared a bit. And I felt better afterwards. Felt better because I thought, wow, you've still got them lovely feelings for them, haven't you? But you I don't know. Is it hard to forgive? I don't know. I don't think,
Well, if you're asking me, could I forgive Mark Green? Could I forgive Andrew Chalmers? I think you have to forgive, but you never forget.
That's it then. So it's, in other words, I think we've got a good set of people in rugby league, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've got we get the vagabonds in now and then, don't we? Brian Mack, I know I quote him a bit, which is weird lately. I keep quoting Mack a bit, which is weird.
I'm surprised Brian McDermott's not sniffing around some of these
He said to me,
potentially vacant.
Yeah, when he said to me, I said, I don't know how much of this I can take, Mac. Well, maybe 6-7 years ago. He said, we can't afford to lose good uns tops. We can't afford to lose. He said, the game's lost enough good uns. We need to get rid of some of the shit and keep the good ones. And you need to, and he gave me like a little man-to-man speech. I thought it was lovely. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think overall we've got a good set of people in our game, good supporters, good people. The grassroots people are the legends, Mick, aren't they? You know it more than anybody. The grassroots people in our game, what they do for nothing, is beyond belief. If the
volunteers at the community clubs who cut the grass, who man the bars,
and it must be harder now.
Make sure everything ticks over. Make sure the boiler's working so the players have hot showers.
Did you see the Rob Burrow one when they brought Bob Pickles on? Do you know what Bob Pickles is?
The
scout.
The scout, yes.
Bob, when I first came into this game, was a legend. Robert Pickles was the king. He was the person who ID'd Adrian Morley, Terry, whatever. Danny Maguire, Rob Burrow, Kevin Sinfield. He could sit with Bob and you'd be like, he'd start laughing. I'd say, who's best player you've ID'd? He'd say, you think you can't go higher than Morley. And you know what I mean? He were brilliant. And I watched him when he talked about Rob and I was crying me out of tears, was streaming. One, I know Bob, and I think he's been, he's got older Bob, he's whatever. But imagine being a chief scout for 30, 40 years at a club, what he's seen. And how many times it has turned out it rained to watch a player when they don't get paid, but, Bob won't get paid a lot, Mick, for 40 years. And he's found top 5 or 6 best players ever to play the game in our country. He's ID'd him. Do you know how many times he'd have probably done that for no? Do you get me?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Bob, here's your three matches. Fucking freezing in the middle of Rochdale on a Sunday morning. You sat there, I've done it, and we've ID'd, you've got Cagoule on, you're thinking, oh my God. So, yeah, shout out to them.
Well, that was quite good. It was.
Yeah, sorry for.
No, it was good. It was good. It was an interesting little break whilst we do the final 2 clubs.
3, I think. We've got Saints.
Oh, I thought we'd already done Saints at the start.
I don't think we did, I don't think we did Saints. I think we've got Warrington.
No, well, we can do St Helens. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Let's start with St Helens then. Closest challengers to Wigan? Yes or no?
No.
Wow.
No.
What's gone wrong at St Helens then? We know they're bringing Lee Breers in as assistant.
I think the changing of the Leeds thing, I think after so long, the legs, Tommy Mack. I reckon somebody said this to me the other day, and it's one of the best things I've ever heard. He said if Man of Steel were done on the best players, based on Saints having 9 good players, so they can't get man at match every week. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Or not? So if you take Johnny Lomax, he was saying, and put him in the cast side, he'd have won 6 Men of Steel. This was his point.
Yes.
This was Scott Taylor, by the way. Scott
Yeah.
Taylor tag said to me, Johnny Lomax has been best player for the last 5 or 6 years in our comp. He thought consistently being at that level. He said if Johnny doesn't get the points for the Man of the Steel because he's in a team where Walmsley gets it, he gets it, Lewis Dodd might get it, Wellesby gets it, you get me?
Roby, yeah.
So if he was in a bottom 4 club, as the ones who usually win the Man of Steel could be, it's never, you know what I mean? So he said, Loma, and I thought, wow. But Johnny's getting older. Robes has packed in. Mm-hmm. The changing of the guards happening, you can see it. I don't think it's helped. Young Lewis, the Australia thing's caused a bit of a flutter now, you know what I mean? So they're saying Lewis's form's dropped because...
Was Lewis Dodd hoping that wasn't going to come out? I mean, Rugby League, as we know, Craig, very few people can keep a secret or hold a secret.
I think, do you know what? I think from the drop kick, Lewis's life was changing. And I think a natural progression for Lewis has been that drop kick, middle of Australia, pressure on, that's it. I look at that as that had a little effect on Saints. It shouldn't have because, Lewis were a young lad coming up. They've got some two unbelievable young halves. Get ready. They are going to be sensational. I mean, the France game for the academy, I didn't like the game. They played some good stuff, but the defences on both sides, I can't even talk about it. But you did see the emergence of 2 or 3.
Yeah, I must admit, watching it back, 37-36.
Well,
England
horrific.
still managed to lose.
Honestly, it was horrific. I don't tell you how defensive-wise and game management, how the game were played. But there were some fantastic performances by the young England lads. But I think Saints are going to be 2 or 3 year. Do I think Saints, if Daz Clark played and they've got everybody on prime fitness, I don't think they're going to get anyone, because of the age of the squad, they're not going to get them to it prime fitness in the playoffs. Wow. Because you're asking to time it for 1 or 2 games. I think that's quite hard, because I think the squad is older. I think Conrad's at that age.
Yeah.
Tommy Mack's at that age with injuries. I think Walmsley's at that age with injuries. I think I'm trying to think of the back rower. I think there's an age group in them that's very hard to get them all. Do I think they could compete with Wigan? Yeah, on a one-off now, I think they could. But I think consistently, because they can't get them all on pitch, I think it's impossible. And I think Saints are on a rebuild. The weird thing I've heard out of Saints is I don't hear any moves.
No. And
that's what used to happen. I'm scared for them, because that's what happened at Leeds for a bit. When you go, what's happening? What's happening? And I can't hear anything. I'm not hearing any moves. You know, I heard a little bit where there were a few players dropped in. One high-profile player for another club were dropped in. I think Rushy and his team need to make some moves, because the crowd want to feel like next year they're going to come back. I'm sure they can do something this year. It's the first time I've heard. Remember when Kieran Cunningham got the job?
Yes.
And it broke the heart when Kieran never became that man. I'm not saying he's bitter to the club now, but they reckon it snapped something.
Yes.
Best player the best player they've ever had ever.
It didn't work out, that transition from player to coach.
Yeah, and he's the best player. He's revered as the king, right?
He's got a statue there.
And it broke something. I hope this doesn't happen Wello, because it's the first time I've seen Wello under some pressure.
Yes.
You're hearing it, aren't you? You're hearing shithouses, clubs, hey.
And the fans and the social media comments. I mean, again, Ian Watson can thank his lucky stars. Ken Davies probably of a certain age that he doesn't go on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook to see those negative comments. I'm not being ageist to Ken, but you understand where I'm coming from. After that defeat to Castleford, 8-6 Friday gone, there's 140 odd comments on St. Helens ex-Twitter page, and it is all negativity aimed at Welland. Sort it out. The attack is garbage.
Do you know what? And even the way they play, which is the kick, chase, and efforts. It's called an effort. If you look at the way they play, it's all effort areas. Box kick, kick chase, keep them down there, thundering defence, high completion, wear them down, and then they'll get them. They're not playing any offload. They're not playing any second phase. They don't play with a lot of shape. Do you know what I mean by that? You don't see them play with loads of stuff going off. I think that they're in a transition, but I think the club need to make some big noises, or it'll be elite. Could be a Leeds job. Could be 2 or 3, 4 years before they come back round. That's all right. You can't be top. Can't do what they did, Mick. The legends, what they've done. Mike Rush and Gary Etherington would be the best 2 administrators the sport's ever seen. Wow. They've got to be because of what they've done. You'd look at Ridlinski thinking Chris could be up there, but he's not there yet. I think Rush has won, 6 grand finals or whatever, 4 on trot World Club, So you look at it, and he's kept a club going. Gary Etherington famously 9 grand finals, a couple of World Club, So he said, you've got to say they're in trans. I don't think for me, Mick, they're second now.
Wow. Well, it is, of course, Wigan St. Helens this weekend, which is a huge game for St. Helens and where they are at. A club that really has an opportunity. They made it to the Challenge Cup final. They went to St. Helens, played Huddersfield and beat Huddersfield in that semi-final. They fell up short against Matty Pete's Wigan, but it is Sam Burgess's Warrington Wolves. Oof. What do we think of Warrington, Craig?
I think they're the real deal.
I mean, they've had a bit
because they're doing the opposite of what a lot of clubs doing. Warrington are the big hitters. They are the big spenders, but they've actually turned the neck in a bit and gone for a bit of culture. Sam's actually believing in the youth. He's believing in giving the opportunity, which is...
Aaron Lindop, I believe, the
crazy.
Winner. He's had a few starts.
Crazy.
You've got your young Fulis there and his brother.
You've got Thulis, you've got the other centre, then you've got the little halfback who got injured. He had total faith in him. He's got a prop he's played. He's got the back rower. Trying to think. So I think Sam's give the opportunities to the youth this year. He's buying into that culture. That takes time. They got their ass spanked at Wembley. Great for Sam. Because Sam can say, what did we do wrong? Where did it go wrong on the big stage?
That's a big learning curve.
And it's a big learning curve. Yeah. He probably had to wean out. I like what they're doing. Do I think they'll pull the checkbook? I think they rely too much, my opinion, on the fullback. And if he don't fancy it, which he's got that in him not to fancy it, I thought in the Challenge Cup final he didn't fancy it, I'll be honest with you. I think they need to get the players away from it, making about him whether he plays well. It never holds well when you've got one player. You know, you think about the players in history who have been that. Lee Briers at Warrington for 7 years.
Yeah, he was. If he has an off day, it brings. Yeah.
Danny Brough
at Hull, yes.
And Wakefield, Wakey. If he had an off day, it was good night, Irene.
Yeah.
Rangy.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, Rangy Chase.
Rangy Chase was totally
Salford as well.
Was totally dominant in his performance, and if that wasn't on, then there was thingy. I don't want that to be about the fullback at Warrington. I think they're better than that.
Yeah.
I think they're better than that. But I think they'll be the grand finalists with
Wigan.
100%.
A repeat of the Challenge.
100%, and it'll be tighter.
And just while we're talking about this, Danakora, player close to your heart, he's obviously left Bradford at the start of this season, and he's gone to Warrington. And what a great success story from Danakora. Obviously at Hulkingston Rovers, he unfortunately.
Well, John Bastian deserves all the not us. We don't deserve that. And me and John, whatever. But John deserves everything on that. John Bastian said in Coving to Danakora and Connor. He said, look, lads, you've got to come to Roundhay Hills, and if you're willing to come twice a week and run up that hill, and I've got all the videos he used to send me, and it's got Danakora sprinting 400-metre sprints. John were like Rocky, Mickey at Rocky with bike, and they were doing it and doing it and doing it. And he said, I'll take you to Hull KR. He took them both to Hull KR from Leeds. They never got scouted in Leeds, so they didn't get any clubs. He took him to Hull KR. When he left Hull KR didn't fancy him. Do you get me?
Mm.
So we took him to Bradford because we felt that was the opportunity. I'll give Joe his due. Joe's going to take all the credit for that as well. On the back of that, Joe got him into Bradford. And I think Eamon had seen him a little bit, so Eamon's going to have credit because he's seen him a little bit. I think we took him to Newcastle. We might have even took him to Newcastle. So he'd seen a little bit. So between all the triangles, John, Joe, Eamon, they got him there. He took the opportunity and he started to play it into it. And then, obviously, I'm sat at I'll give you a little inside the deal, a bit of fun.
Yeah.
I'm sat at Paul McShane's testimonial dinner. And I couldn't believe it. The room went quiet. And I'm speaking. I'm up to speak with Daryl Powell. It's me speaking with Daryl Powell, and there were 4 speakers. One of them was Sam Burgess. We've not seen Sam, my family have not seen Sam since a lot of years. I was very close to Burgess. I love them as a family. The room went quiet, and somebody goes, Sammy Burgess is in the room, and there's only few people, Mick, have got that presence. He's got it. Look, it just stopped. And he had this white polo neck. He looked, 6 foot. I mean, they're just the most best physical specimens, the Bonnie lads. The room's gone quiet, and I'm on stage, and I've looked up, and he's like, I remember I seen him at 15 sitting with my little mate, and I looked up, and he's gone, the king. He's pointing, the king's in the building, and I'm looking at him thinking, Sammy, you're the, you know what I mean, laughing. So we're having a bit of, he came over to see me and Joe. He remembered Joe. He goes, Joey, rugging out. And he says to me, come on, King, give me some players. I said, we're only money ballers, so we love that money ball. I said, we've got the top end. We love that. But I said, he goes, yeah, I want somebody. I said, there's a lad at Bradford called Danakora. I said, he's getting better every week. I think he's got half a chance. I said, he'd be the person I'd inquire or look at for next year. Weirdly, John John B and all the lads were there. John were like, fuck. Because John thought he'd have a chance at least. Yeah. But I said it straight out anyway.
Because Danakora did meet Rowan, the famous picture
Rowan
in the service station.
In the service station.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
By the way, Bradford had full, they all knew that.
Yeah.
The fans didn't know that. But as if I do
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As if.
No one was questioning.
Yeah. But the fans did a bit, and I was laughing. I was like, "Mate, you think we'd do that? That 100%." The question was asked, and it was, "Do it confidential. Let's see what comes. We won't stop in his way. We want a fee." They met up, and I'll never forget. Sam came to meet him. Leeds met him to whatever, and Sam came in and he was totally different. He was totally different to anything I've seen. He like looked at Dan and he's like looking at him in eyes and he goes, "You all right?" And they had like a match up. Dan's big, isn't he? So he was bigger than Sam, like literally a bit taller. Sam goes, "Bloody hell!" But Sam were very much on their age group. It were weird, like meeting in pub. He's like, "Come on and tell me about you, son. I'll make you a player." That's the first thing he said. "I'll make you a player. Do you trust me? I'll make you a player. My ambition is to play you this year for Warrington. I'm not after you for next year after. I'm going to play you this year. Only you can stop yourself playing in my team. Have you seen what I've done with this young kid, this young halfback?" He said, "I'm going to play him every week." Dan sat looking at Sam in love, thinking, "This is the king. This is Sammy Burgess." We've made him own cooking. Sam's dipping in, and he's just totally at ease with the situation. The rest is history. Everyone got the deal they wanted. His big challenge now is getting to the next stage. Honestly, that's what worries you because then they're playing well. Dan's
on loan at Swinton at the minute,
and Sam's addressed some things with him, and he's tested him and said, "I don't think he fully knows to be a full time. I don't think the penny's dropped yet. What it means, how much desire you need, and how much you need." And I think Sam's testing him. There's only Dan can answer that question. Our Joe works with Dan a lot, and any feedback our Joe works with him. It's not. People think that move's great. It isn't if you don't get in. Dan's got to grab it and say, "Right, I'm gonna get." Because how many chances do you get, Mick, if it don't work? They don't usually get 2 or 3, do they?
Well, as we know, he had the chance at Hull KR. I think Hull KR might be perhaps eating sour grapes, depending on what happens. But, he's had a great 18 months at Bradford. He's always come across as a professional athlete to me, and very grounded.
But it's that next level.
Yes.
It's that desire. It's not to do with him. It's that saying, you look at Dan and you want Dan to go, I'm gonna get in. We've got to get Dan to that next level. There's a challenge for Dan. He's at the right place to get that challenge.
But a lot
fingers,
of the
he's verge. I think he's on verge. I think they reckon he went right well at Swinton last week, but I think he's got to do that consistently. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And the final club on this sort of half-season review is Hull Kingston Rovers. They had a very, very narrow defeat at home to Catalans in Golden Point, which was very excruciating.
We haven't done Catalans, by the way.
Oh, we haven't done Catalans. Yeah,
he's writing them all off today.
With formality, everybody, if I apologise. But yeah, Hull KR, Craig, real deal, yes or no?
Yes.
You've already said it's going to be a Wigan Warrington grand final.
Yeah, that's what I think, and I thought that was the Challenge Cup final. I think KR are banging on the door. I think they can go with anybody. I think they might be the team that'd give Wigan the most. They've got something on Wigan. I know Wigan destroyed them in that Challenge Cup, but I think they've got a little system that sometimes upsets Wigan a little bit. Great club. Most ambitious club in the country, in my opinion, by none. Driven by my friend Paul Larko. He's driven. He's at it every day. He's wanting more. They've got the right investment at the club to go where they want to go. Sometimes it hurts me because that leaves my dream. You know what I mean? I like the development, and I told Paul, and I've told the lads there, that Willie and that, till I see them develop them youngsters, which they've got 4 or 5. They don't get my full tick, Mick.
Yeah.
The best people can develop as well as promote the club. But what a journey of the last 4 years. I mean, they've all got to be given thanks. And that Neil, Paul, Mike Smith for the story. What a journey they've had. What a job they're doing. The idea that the template for every club, the template now for any club coming in, and there's a load of franchises going in this year, they should be going to KR and saying, how did you do it?
Yeah.
I think 18 months before it started to go, a lot of work were done. Do you know what I think to get really a franchise top? And all them players at OKR I love. Some of my favourite players in the world. I absolutely adore a lot of mine lads there. And a lot of ones. But I think Mikey Lewis walking into that stadium and having an homegrown, I know he's a whole homegrown and he could have gone black and white, but I think you need to get investment into clubs. Somebody's got to rock your boat, Mick. Somebody's got to give it, and Mikey's that difference. I think if you're going to KR, you've got an X Factor player like that, and he's got loads to learn. Willie's got to keep on learning him. But I think a lot of franchises, you mentioned Cass there. What do Cass need? Cass need Rooney to come through and be a superstar.
Yes.
Jamie Rooney's lad, he's capable of being a top player. I think if the Cass fans saw an homegrown kid, absolutely, and you've got to have a bit of sugar and spice, haven't you? If I said to you, name a Bradford player now, I'll guarantee you, I know. If we write it down on a piece of paper in history, I know what you're going to say. Name a Bradford player.
That's come through the...
No. Name the Bradford player who you remember straight away.
Leslie Vanacola.
I didn't do it. I was going to say he's going to mention Leslie.
If you were going to say the player that has come through, it would have to be Sam Burgess.
Yes.
Closely followed by John Bateman, then
I get
Elliot
it.
Whitehead.
But if you mentioned a player, because what did Leslie... And I know it, I wish we'd have done it live and said, he's going to, out of all the 10,000 players, he's going to mention Leslie.
Yes.
Well, Leslie were different, wasn't he?
Yes.
And when he used to come to Leeds, we could not believe when he came to Leeds because you knew physically you were going to, senior in him physically. You knew that. Keith had to protect him from getting to Calderwood. Leeds designed the game plan that beat him when they kicked it behind him and made him come on kick returns and he was knackered. So I can remember Leeds going into that game saying, whatever you do, kick behind him.
Tire him out.
His legs have gone. But when he were on, and the battles, I don't think we ever saw him and Marcus Pye get it on, but he just had it, didn't he? Robbie Paul a little bit. Robbie Paul, for me, when he used to, I think a franchise needs that, and I think KR have got it.
Michael Lewis, the poster boy. Yes,
he's the
St Helens with Wellesby.
You've got it, and I think that helps. Fantastic run club, fantastic people. They're going to kill me for saying that Warrington, I think, are going to be in the final. I have to say it truthful.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong, guys. I'll take it on chin.
The final club then, Catalan Dragons, they did have a bit of a mid-season stutter. They've won the last two. Looks like Steve McNamara has managed to iron out whatever issues or problems were there. They were, of course, the beaten grand finalists last season. Can you see Catalans?
No.
Are they missing Sam Tompkins too much?
Maybe. Talking, communicating. I think
they've not replaced that leadership for mine.
If they get into playoffs, they have to play away. It's all over.
Yes.
If they get into playoffs, they're at home. I think they get there. But I think that means they've got to finish second or third. If they finish sixth, fifth,
where they currently are,
I don't see how they can go away and progressively beat teams twice away and then go into the... Do you get me?
Yes. Yeah.
They'd have to win two... I'm sure they'd have to win two-away fixtures. I'd say it's impossible for Catalans to win two-away fixtures. I'd be shocked.
Of that pressure and that magnitude.
Yes, against one of the top teams. I think that on one game, listen, what a job Steve Mack's done. Let's put it in perspective about the jobs. He's going to have to be one of the greatest. He's made them a top three club for the last 5 years. Like, they are a top team.
And... he's reunited with Elliot Whitehead next season.
Elliot Whitehead.
Yeah, that's come out.
Has it come out?
Yeah, it's come out. They've signed Whitehead.
Again, I'm going to have the only thing I think is he goes for that's his model.
Yeah. He's got a particular model of Steve.
Mickey Iron.
And he's always had that even at
Mickey Mack. He's got that older player who he likes to it being the culture around the club. And he's actually, he's given the French young players a better opportunity this year. That's maybe why but the model works based on bringing 3 or 4 overseas in every year who are top quality and paying them a shitload because the tax relief over there is massive.
Leon Price famously told me about the tax and it made my eyes water.
And it works. He's brought in 2 Origin.
You don't pay any tax.
No, 2 Origin halfbacks over the last 5 years. And he's had 2 Origin halfbacks. So I think I like the model. It's been a massive success, hasn't it? Do we congratulate Catalans for what they've added to Super League? We do.
100%.
100%.
Especially at a time in this IMG era when a lot of the other Super League clubs are questioning the validity of having a French team in.
Fantastic.
And wanting to take their central funding off so they self-fund everything.
I think the Catalan Dragon fixture for most away teams one of the best fixtures at lot. I think they had loads to the comp. I loved it when there were Thomas Boss and them playing. I think they've had
Thomas Boss,
what a player. You know what I mean? You look at some of the players they've had. Do I think the French international team have got better on the back of Catalans? No, because the best players for Catalans are usually overseas. That's your problem. People say, how come that doesn't resonate into international? It's simple. The top 5 players are from Oz or England, so they never get that. You get me? That the pivotal players of Catalans are not the dominating players, are not the.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's a fair comment.
I think they've been a credit to our comp. They cannot, from 6th, they cannot get to the grand final. I hope that don't go out and they go, F you, I'll take it.
Well, Steve Mack pulled me up actually earlier on this year at Halifax v Catalans, and he says, get me on that show. He wants to come on and challenge the
We'd
king,
love it.
but
We'd love it.
I don't know how we do it logistically.
We've never given Steve enough toffee, and I do feel bad about that because he has done an unbelievable. And do you know what you think? Danny Maguire once said that he enjoyed Steve's tenure at England more than any others, and he never played Danny. So imagine a top player like him saying how good Steve was because he thought Steve were loyal to Rangy and whoever it was, Widdop. And Danny said, I didn't mind that because it was like, at least he had a plan. So I think he's done a fantastic job. I always thought he'd come. I tell you what, every time our job will come back up. But it's obvious he's going to go back. But every 2 years he signs again and he signs again. Do you get me? He tells me off, He tells me off because I've had about 6 big hitting signings that I've never took. And we've met and he'll show me out at the apartment, the waves, and he'll say, Craig, and we have this conversation, and then whatever reason it hadn't gone through. And it couple costs of him, by the way, couple costs of theirs. But great FOT comp, Mick, and fantastic FOT comp. Overall, Mick, I think if we're going to give the half season review, I think Wigan.
Well, I had Salford against Wigan, but I will put Wigan in at the top. But you've then got to have Salford second in terms of achievements.
I'm not having Salford second now.
Oh no,
no, I'm not. I'm not having Salford second. I think, and that's a credit to Salford. I think that they've proved over the last 3 or 4 years they're not surprising me. So I think Rolls is a top coach. Who surprised me this year? Who I think have overachieved more than anybody. Warrington.
It's a fair comment.
I just didn't think they would. I thought we were all looking at Warrington thinking, fucking hell, they've not signed nobody, they're this, that, and actually they've managed to get to final at the Challenge Cup. When they put Leeds away this year at Leeds, I couldn't believe it. I was shell-shocked. They give Leeds it. Leeds had it playing well then. They then went to, who did they beat in semis at Challenge Cup? Huddersfield. They just...
Absolutely.
And I was like, and then Wigan... The big man in the playground's gone, not yet, kid. We're the boys. But I think they'd have learnt a lot. I don't think they can get over Wigan. But I think what Sam's done in his first year...
Oh, unbelievable. The quarter-final against St. Helens. To go to St. Helens and comprehensively beat them,
I think they had the hangover from the Challenge Cup. But I think he's got them back on the horse and they'll let her run here. They'll let her run, they'll go... and I think they've got... My only thing is they're reliant on the fullback. I don't like it. I don't think you can do that at that level. I think they need to bring a couple more in. And they've done it a way that we never believed they could make. We didn't think they could do it without money. We thought money was Warrington, and that's the only reason they're successful. My last words of, did you watch the Las Vegas thing? The
announcement, yes.
Thoughts?
You want my honest thoughts on it?
You can't hold back.
I think it is great. I'm a bit disappointed that effectively Warrington versus Wigan is the curtain raiser. I don't want to be too negative on it because what has transpired from speaking to Chris Radlinski and Carl Fitzpatrick is the clubs have done this themselves. They've not gone through IMG. No. They've not gone through the RFL. Effectively, they've basically slammed the door shut on the RFL IMG, and they've gone and brokered this deal directly with the NRL and Peter V'landys. And I think that shows just how much power the clubs have, which is worrying. But in this case, I think it is good. It's a positive. My worry is, Craig, we're talking about expanding out into to Vegas with Warrington versus Wigan, but we've not got our house in order here in this country. So all the dreamers,
will the fans travel?
It's going to go great. Yeah, the fans will travel. I'd expect at least 10,000. The stadium's a Super Bowl stadium. Craig.
Wow.
It holds 60,000.
Do you think 10,000 Wigan fans will be?
No, I think there'll be 10,000 Wigan, Warrington, British fans there.
Got you.
Out of the crowd of 40,000 last year, they reckon there was 4,000 or 5,000.
Yeah.
I think that doubles. And heck, I've even looked at hotels in Vegas for that weekend and flights. And I think there's a package for about £600.
Well, I've heard there's a DJ they're looking for a DJ in this place. It's not on top streets of Vegas, Mick. It's about 4th Street down. It's a bit, it's a little bit where you go after 12 o'clock.
Where there'll be no one there.
And they've got bed and breakfast and a thing. No, great success. I hope it does. My friends went to Vegas. They wanted to watch the NRL. They all went to Vegas last year.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
they said it was a brilliant time. Everyone's having a great party. I'm a bit scared of the long flights, Mick, so I don't know if that'll do for me, but I hope it's a success.
Yeah, a lot of Bradford fans who I know went and they said you've got to either change in Phoenix, Chicago, or you can get the odd direct flight.
What about
there,
the Amsterdam one, York v KR?
Yeah, I mean, again, that is an interesting one.
The old... Are the lads on the... Well, I would say that now. It's legal. Is it?
Yeah, it's legal in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
I've got a friend currently out in Amsterdam and he told me about the weed boat. And I said, you what, the weed boat? He said, yeah, it's a trip. You literally go on this sort of canal boat and it's called the weed boat and it's got all the... Bob Marley and spliffs and God knows what. I mean...
Could we do a live show with the...
He said you go in. He said you go in, and because obviously it's on the boat, it's like you're coming off, and I'm like,
well, my mate,
that's not for me.
I don't know. My mate did it last couple of years ago, and they went to the guy who rides there's 8 seats, and a guy rides around Amsterdam, and you've got your pipe pot, and you pull your own, and he's driving round city. You can do 10 pints, it takes him 3 hours, and all you do is you pay your bill afterwards, you pull your pints on the bike, and you're all having crack. You just sat there, and he's taking you around everywhere. So I thought that'd be. Hey, listen, you know what?
Put me on that. Put me on that.
When they announced it, I thought, you know what? That'd be that. I thought for a weekend, I thought what a bit of crack that'd be. Is if you're a real sport, and thought, you know what? Only problem with Amsterdam is, the dam over the years. I've got legendary stories, but I'm not going to condone. But my mates have had some of them have had nightmares. It's a place, Mick, where for 2 days you can...
Yeah, and it's good to see rugby league breaking new ground, and I hope, having York and Hull KR there in the pre-season, and, I'm still a little bit sceptical about the impact of what Wigan Warrington in Vegas is going to do, because, like I say, after the farce with the France-England game in the international last weekend, we need to get our own house in order here before we start talking about gimmicks and taking games over there. But listen, I'm sure the exposure, you've got the Australian Jillaroos against the England women's side. That's the 3rd game. So listen, it promises to be an exciting...
Do you think the building, Mick? I think we're flirting with literally doing our comp, and then instead of having what we're saying about the origin and instead of having this and that, do you think they're flirting with the competition, what they tried before in like Vegas, where you'd stay there for a month and you'd camp there and you'd play the Aussie team? Do you think that's what we're going to do eventually?
I don't know. I just know that Wigan have conceded a home game, so that is a very, very... That's going to hit them financially in some sense. But then on the flip side of it, I'm sure the packages that Wigan sell... I mean, that like I say, I think... I without saying for certain, I think 10,000 fans travelling over there is.
I think it's a courting for something bigger if they can do it.
Yes.
I think if they got a tournament called the World, not the World Club, it might be the World Club, but it could be done, and they could do it there, and they can see what the appetite for fans to travel. I think if they can get big stadiums and then they'll do a World Club sort of tournament. It'll be a big thing.
Well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? Because we need something drastically, and sadly, England versus France is not the answer.
Got it.
It's been there, done that, worn the t-shirt.
Thank you.
Well, that has been the full 80 minutes on Show Me the Money Rugby League TV. Until the next time, love and peace. Keep it #positive rugby league. Who knows when we will be back? It might be next week. It might be another month. But keep it real. Keep it safe. We love you lots.